91%. Chapter 461 Get dazzled with a mouthful of dog food, enter. As long as they have enough advanced warships in the Eurasian Federation, they are strong enough. Dealing with the Zurian civilization will be the same as dealing with the alien civilization in this world. It is easy to resist and destroy the opponent's warship. For this kind of thinking, Nangongla, who has such a figure as the princess of the Chengxing Empire under his command, can only be said to be extremely stupid. She often chatted with Chu Feifei about the alien civilizations that led to the end of the civilization of the Chengxing Empire. I deeply know how terrifying and powerful the technological power of these alien civilizations is. As far as the level of evolution of their warships today, God's Chosen is even inferior to the civilization of the Zerere people when they invaded the Chengxing Empire. Not to mention that after an era now, maybe the upgraded version of the Zerere civilization that has accommodated and absorbed the technology of the Chengxing Empire. It's time to fight. The chosen ones of the Eurasian 160 Federation will 100% be rubbed on the ground by the invading Zerere civilization. What if the other party can't resist a complete defeat? Then this is out of their scope of consideration. Who let the other party have no idea of cooperating with them and forming an alliance to jointly defend against the enemy? Boss, tell me, if the Zerere civilization invades, can we really win in the end? At this time, Nangongla suddenly sent a message to Qin Tian asking. Qin Tian stared blankly at the other party's question. Then he replied in the affirmative. Yes, no matter what, I will not let the matter of the Chengxing Empire happen to our Blue Star, at least not to the Yanlong Empire. Nangongla looked at the message Qin Tian replied to her. There was a slight sourness in his heart, and a wry smile appeared on his face involuntarily. She knows. That's what Qin Tian meant by sending this message. He allowed the people of other countries on Blue Star to suffer heavy casualties. But with his wife Mu Ningxie and daughter Qin, the little Yanlong Empire can't do anything anyway. Because Mu Ningxie, the God's Blessed One, has the strongest fighting power in Yanlong Empire now. If there is a major problem in the Yanlong Empire, then Mu Ningxie probably wants to come forward. So even in order to protect his wife and daughter, Qin Tian will also do everything in his power to fight the Zerere civilization to the end. Alas, sure enough, the one who is hurt is always a single dog like me who is shown off with a mouthful of dog food. When will I be loved by such a tall, handsome, strong and heroic husband? Nangongla roared in his heart unwillingly from a single dog. Girl, hurry up and upgrade. You will find out when you reach a large aerospace aircraft carrier. Our real journey may only start when we fly out of Dakan. Just when Nangongla longed for a man in his heart, Qin Tian sent her another emotional message. Nangongla was stunned when he saw this message. For a moment, he couldn't care less about roaring. Hastily wrote back and asked, Boss, what do you mean? Is there any special upgrade after the aerospace carrier? How about saying that Nangongla is a clever girl? Qin Tian just mentioned a little bit. The opponent immediately grasped the key point from it. Qin Tian also told the other party without hesitation. After being upgraded to a large-scale aerospace aircraft carrier, in addition to the raw materials we are familiar with, if you want to make a breakthrough, you will also have one more important material, that is, the crystal ore that can only be produced in the universe's starry sky. Advanced individual weapons such as guns, electromagnetic guns, particle beams, and mechs all need this crystal ore. Then if we can't get out of the atmosphere and enter the universe, don't we have no hope forever? Nangongla asked nervously and unbelievably. That's not true. Qin Tian replied to the other party. I guess that the warships of the Zuler civilization that invaded from the universe will definitely carry the crystals we need. The higher the level of their warships, the better the quantity and grade of crystals they carry, so I will let you quickly upgrade and improve your own strength. See Qin Tian's message. Nangongla thought that this is really the case. The will of the planet will definitely not let its chosen ones die in vain. So we will definitely find a reasonable way to send this crystal ore to the hands of the chosen one. And the invasion of alien civilization at this point is obviously perfect. Think here. She felt a little cold in her heart. How does it feel that everything is arranged by the will of the planet or the rules of the universe? But she didn't speculate too much. Instead, send a message directly to Qin Tian. Okay, boss, I remember. I will upgrade my battleship and strength as soon as possible. Qin Tian saw that this girl was so obedient. For a while, I was very pleased. After he let out he sent a message to the other party. Okay, let's do this first. I'm about to enter the copy of the Sea of Death. What's the matter? Wait until I come out. Okay, big brother, you must be careful inside. After the two said something to each other, Qin Tian immediately closed the private chat interface. Because he saw that Su Jian had come out of the cabin door. Followed by Rui, Union and Weiyu. It's just that at this time, 11 battleships also came to the entrance of the scalp-numbing corpse. The fleet headed by the Nemesis entered the entrance through the downhill one after another. Everyone looked up at the horrible entrance that was built by countless corpses, and there was a viscous green liquid dripping continuously. Those crew members who had never seen this scene only felt their scalps tingling. In the bottom of my heart, I couldn't help but want to escape from this place as soon as possible. But they have more than 90 points of loyalty to Qin Tian. Although I was afraid in my heart that I would die at 5.8. But still gritted his teeth and controlled the battleship. Immediately following the Nemesis, it drove into the portal of the dungeon. The crew, who thought they would be much better after coming in, soon discovered how naive and ridiculous their thoughts were. Even an entrance door is so scary. How could there be a place that makes people look normal? When they took advantage of the pale full moon above their heads to see the scenery in the Black Sea clearly, some timid crew members immediately slumped to the ground. Stomach churned and wanted to spit it out. Too much. There are scattered and rusty warship wrecks on the sea. It seems to be telling how fierce the battle was in this sea area at the beginning. And in the sea, it is densely packed, like a rat tide of horrible corpses. 91%. Chapter 462 The Terrifying Death Force Field of Sauron Civilization. Especially when seeing the distorted expressions on the faces of those corpses in the sea, as if they were not dead yet, who were undergoing unimaginable torture. To the eyewitnesses, it seemed like an incomparable antidote to depression. Many crew members immediately looked away. Never dare to look outside again. This place is simply not a place for people to stay. Captain, is this it in the sea? At this time, accompanied by Rui, Yunyan and Weihu, Su Jian also came up. He pointed to the corpses in the Black Ocean and asked with sadness and guilt. Yes, Mr. Su, you read that right. The corpses in the sea are all the people of the Chengxing Empire, and their corpses or wills are likely to have been polluted by Soren's civilization, which is why they are so completely destroyed by the planet's will. The ban on azimuth is in this dungeon, and it can only roll endlessly in this sea of death. Qin Tian nodded, and answered Su Jian's question on the 21st with a smile on his face. Mr. Su, that's why I didn't want to tell you at the beginning. It's so miserable. No matter how many words I use to describe this scene, I can't describe 1,000th of the horror and misery in it. Rui clenched his fist behind and said, it's all our monarch's fault. If he hadn't escaped, the hearts of our empire would not have been scattered. We may not have had the opportunity to defend our planet. In that case, these people would not have encountered such a terrible experience. Yunyan was also turned pale by the scene in front of her. In my heart, I scolded their last monarch bloody. Forget it, since the matter has already happened, it will be useless to pursue it further, and it is important to get down to business first. Su Jian shook his head, and glanced at the waves of corpses in the Black Ocean that were driven by the waves and kept hitting their battleships one after another. Taking a deep breath, he suppressed the anger in his heart and said, Old Su, in this sea of death, are you sure that the treasure house of your Chenstar Empire can be hidden here? Qin Tian couldn't help asking Su Jian curiously. Don't worry, when I was building the treasury, the monarch specially asked me to leave a warning mark and a spiritual mark. Although the force field of death in this dungeon suppressed my mental power, it made it difficult for me to accurately perceive the coordinates of the treasure house. But I still vaguely perceive the direction that comes from the imprint of the soul. Facts have proved that the treasure house of the Chengxing Empire is undoubtedly in this copy of Sea of Death. Su Jian gave Qin Tian an answer that made the latter extremely satisfied. Qin Tian didn't expect Su Jianeng to be able to find the location of the Chengxing Empire's treasure house accurately and without error. He only needs to make sure that the treasure house of the Chengxing Empire is indeed in this copy of Sea of Death, and that's enough. At the same time, Su Jian's words also aroused Qin Tian's curiosity. Death Force Field. Elder Su, what is that? Su Jian explained to Qin Tian. Captain, everything in the world has a magnetic field, even a drop of water. If you thank it kindly, its water crystals will show beautiful patterns. If you curse at it, its water crystal will become ugly and hideous. Even water is like this, let alone people. The twin Sauron civilization is an advanced civilization that believes in death and specializes in the study of death. Death field is one of their signature specialties. This is also the death of a large number of people in the Qingxing Empire. This phenomenon was only discovered when communications gradually began to fail. According to the summary of the Observation Department and the Scientific Research Department, when the twin Sauron civilization invaded every civilized world, the usual trick is to first send the main fleet to escort the fortress of the fallen into the atmosphere of that planet. Let the fortress of the fallen use death rays and corrupted particle cannons to corrode and pollute the ecological civilization of the planet inside the atmosphere. All creatures polluted by the unique corrosive power of Sauron civilization will have their bodies permanently preserved after death. And the death magnetic field emitted by these polluted corpses will be used by the opponent to use a special device and an amplifier with infinite magnification to cage the entire planet and circulate it. At this point, this force field of death full of pollution is officially formed. When the force field of death is formed, many original communication functions and detection functions of this planet will lose their effect. And after that, there are living beings who die. Most of these newly dead creatures will be revived by recombinant DNA under the pollution of the force field of death, and become puppets who are not afraid of death. Hiss. When hearing Su Jian's explanation, Qin Tian sucked in a breath of cold air at the same time. I finally understood in my heart why they entered this instance of Sea of Death. All warship radar detection will be disabled. And after the chosen one dies, it will become a new corruptor warship to attack the original companions. The emotional reason is to appear here. Isn't this too perverted? Only at this moment did Qin Tian somewhat understand the power of the Sauron civilization. This is just the tip of the iceberg, that Su Jian said. Already Qin Tian's hair stood on end and his back felt cold. If Sauron civilization showed all its whole cards 893. So what hope is there for Blue Star? Just obediently waiting to be rubbed. Have to say, the Qingxing Empire of the last era was still very good. Not only has extremely developed ultra-high technology, but also unearthed a lot of spiritual use of super strong spiritual power. It can be called a perfect country combining technology and magic. Although it was still destroyed by the twin Sauron civilization. But at least they can beat the three extraterrestrial civilizations, Zur, Novi, and Ryan. And even after being wiped out by the twin Sauron civilization, it still kept the safety of Blue Star. This is the continuation of the current Blue Star civilization. And what about them? Now just one Zerare civilization is enough to make everyone feel stressed. Let alone the other two civilizations, Novi and Ryan. As for the boss twin Sauron civilization behind them, that's even more unnecessary. The 100,000 current Blue Star civilizations combined may not be able to defeat the defense fleet of a colonial planet. Such a huge gap. Qin Tian couldn't help but feel a sense of urgency. He asked Su Jian, "Then Mr. Su, where should we go next?" 92%. Chapter 463 Mecha opens the way, vulnerable. Facing Qin Tian's inquiry, Su Jian concentrated his attention, and then felt it carefully. Pointing to the direction of 2 o'clock in front of the right, he said, "There should be a long distance there. My senses appear and disappear, and it is obviously suppressed by the force field of death." Qin Tian nodded, and led several people into the control room. Zula, Chu Hongbao and Dong Zhuang saw so many big men coming in. "Get up in a hurry, salute and say hello." After saying hello, Qin Tian said to Chu Hongbao, "Hongbao, drive to the front right at 2 o'clock. Chu Hongbao nodded upon hearing this. Once the angle is selected, start turning the rudder immediately. After the 10 warships including the Phoenix saw the flagship Nemesis change direction, they also turned to follow. Many gods chosen who only dared to wander around this entrance to fight monsters, after seeing Qin Tian's double-deck giant battleship with the extremely cool title of Legendary Battleship on his head. They frightened and hurriedly avoided the two sides. "I bought it, this guy actually came in. Damn, Qin Shen newbie. What did this ship eat to upgrade? Isn't it too big? Quickly, make way for them quickly, and don't get in front of them." Many god chosen were amazed that Qin Tian actually planned to go deep. It was also a mess. For fear of offending the killing god. When the time comes to see them not pleasing to the eye, give them a shot from a distance. If that is the case, they didn't die at the hands of wild monsters in this Sea of Death dungeon. On the contrary, he died in the hands of Qin Tian. There is really no place to cry. And Qin Tian was naturally too lazy to talk to these insignificant little guys. Standing beside Su Jian, he just stared ahead. The battleship sailed forward quickly, overcoming obstacles and waves. To avoid danger, Qin Tian even directly opened the plain map of divine detective technique in his mind. I don't know if it was because of the riots that happened here before. It was also the reason why too many gods chosen were transformed after death. When Qin Tian opened the plain map to check the surrounding area, the whole person's face couldn't help but become weird. I saw a blue battleship icon on the flat map. Light is the only way they sail forward. There are at least 200 to 300 corroded warships wandering within a distance of 30 nautical miles. The last time he came in, the concentration of wild monsters in this Sea of Death dungeon is far from that high. After driving forward for about 6 or 7 kilometers, by the pale moonlight in the sky, everyone can see it on the sea in the distance. 3 warships covered with countless hands, feet and body parts appeared. Look at the size and vague outlines of the 3 warships. Obviously a destroyer and 2 frigates. Qin Tian had nothing to say about this. Just do it, he immediately said to Zula and the others in front of the center console. To deal with these corroded warships, you don't need to ask me for instructions, just shoot me and destroy them. Okay, Captain. Hear Qin Tian's order. Zula and Dong Zhuang answered with the other 2 new crew members, a man and a woman. I started to get busy in front of the center console. Although the radar system of the Nemesis lost its function due to the suppression of the force field of death. But this time Qin Tian specially equipped the central control with 2 new crew members with A-level central control talent. I saw one of the female crew members named Shinchi clicking continuously on the central control with all 10 fingers. Soon she said to the people around her, the naval gun has been calibrated and can shoot. Dong Zhuang, Zula and another crew member named Lunan nodded. Immediately, they pressed several fire buttons in front of them. Instantly, naval guns, anti-ship missiles, and plasma cannons aimed at their chosen targets and started firing one after another. The berserk attack instantly sent 2 of the corroded warships flying around with the bombarded carrion. The blood bar that just floated above the head has not waited to see how much blood there is. It is immediately cleared to 0. Bursts of flames erupted from the ship, and after blowing up countless flesh and blood, it sank to the bottom of the sea. As for the corroded battleship hit by the plasma naval gun, it was the worst. The moment he was hit, his flesh and organs began to gasify. Wait until the 5 or 6 second attack is over. The corroded warship had already been vaporized clean. Not even a scrap of carrion remained. Seeing these corroded warships so unstoppable. After rubbing his chin with his hand, Qin Tian said to Rui, Union, and Weiyu, Rui, Union, Weiyu, call Li Yao to drive the mecha to open the way and escort in front. What Mr. Su said just now, you have heard the words, we just need to move forward now, and you clean up all the corroded warships blocking the road for me. Yes, Captain. After the 3 of them heard that they could actually control the mecha to attack. Immediately excited, after a salute to Qin Tian and Su Jian, the 3 turned and left the control room. Not for a while. The 4 mechas led a group of unmanned fighter jets soaring into the sky. Start sweeping against the enemies on the road ahead. Captain, your method is good. This will definitely greatly improve our progress. Su Jian said to Qin Tian admiringly. Oh, there is no way. Qin Tian spread his hands, and said worriedly, I just want to find the treasure house as soon as possible, search it clean, and then immediately run back to the entrance and exit to fight monsters and upgrade. Seeing Qin Tian of the Nemesis battleship with such powerful firepower show such a worried expression, Su Jian couldn't help being a little surprised. Captain, is there any unknown method in this copy of Sea of Death that even you can't handle? Qin Tian nodded, and said, it's indeed a bit weird. Among all known dungeons in World of Warships, this Sea of Death scares me the most. A god chosen who was not weak in the Moor family was willing to degenerate in this dungeon, but was successfully corrupted and polluted by the power inside, and became a degenerate with self-awareness. Last month, some people said that the fallen chosen one organized most of the corroded warships in this dungeon to launch a large-scale ambush against the chosen fleet, resulting in the death of more than 20,000 chosen ones here. Since this dungeon has the power to confuse the chosen one, is there a possibility that in this dungeon there is also the core energy or rules of the twin Sauron civilization controlling it? 92%. Chapter 464 The Plan of the Eurasian Federation, Prepare to Contain It. Hear Qin Tian's words. After pondering for a moment, Su Jian said, the force field of death is an extremely powerful scientific research achievement of the Sauron civilization. Its principle is not even understood by the old scholars of the Chengxing Empire. After all, it is created by the magnetic field after death. A kind of self-sufficient siege force field that can surround a planet, and after it takes shape, can be repeated and endless. This is indeed something that no one has ever thought of. This is the reason why the will of our planet is too special, so we can use this kind of trickery to pick ourselves out. If it was replaced by another planet that only knew how to operate according to the rules of the universe, this blue star would probably have become a dead planet long ago. Not to mention building a paradise to protect you, allowing you to survive safely for thousands of years. However, the question you mentioned, Captain, I think it is probably related to the special device of the death force field, but I don't know what that special device is or where it is. Qin Tian shook his head when he heard the words, and said, forget it, the boat will be straight when it reaches the bridge. It's useless to think so much now. First get the things in the treasure house of the Chengxing Empire and then talk about it. Ended the call. Qin Tian reprojected his thoughts on the flat map in his mind. At this moment, the corroded battleships blocking their only way are rapidly decreasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. 550. It can be seen that Rui and the others are driving the mechs and leading the unmanned fighter team to attack the. Just like the autumn wind sweeping away fallen leaves, those corroded battleships along the road were easily eliminated. And with Rui they got rid of those corroded warships. Along the way, the mythical treasure chest picker also automatically absorbed all the dropped treasure chests to the battleship. Qin Tian looked at the deck where the mechas were parked, and in a short while there were a small piece of green and blue treasure chests. He led Su Jian to open the door of the control room and walked over. Start opening treasure chests one by one. Have to say, little Karami is just little Karami. All the 20 or 30 treasure chests were opened with pitifully few supplies. Even a blueprint was searched and nothing came out. So Qin Tian didn't even bother to watch it until the end. Just flip the lid off. Whatever is in him. Love so and so. That's all. Rui and the others cleared the way with mechas. After sailing for more than 10 hours, Rui and the others, CBDG, had to return to the battleship for crude oil replenishment. There are really too many corroded warships. The endless ones seem to be endless. And after 10 hours of in-depth, Su Jian told Qin Tian. He felt more and more clearly about the imprint he left in the treasure house. Obviously, they are going in the right direction, and there is no problem. But Su Jian told Qin Tian. According to the time and the contrast of this clear perception, he deduced that the distance between the fleet and the treasure house was at least 2 days. Regarding Su Jian's words, Qin Tian is naturally quite convinced. The other party has the ability of photographic memory, and the mental strength is naturally different from ordinary people. This kind of person is born a genius in the field of mathematics. So since people said to wait another 2 days, that must be at least 2 days. No way. Let Rui and the others come back and take a good rest first. Qin Tian could only return to the control room. Let Zula continue to play their role. At this time, the live broadcast in this world has already begun. When the viewer saw that Qin Tian actually came to the instance of Sea of Death, many people immediately started talking about it. My God, how did God Qin come to the Sea of Death dungeon? Oh my God, this Yanlong warship is really invincible. In his hands, these wild monsters in the Sea of Death are nothing but experience rewards. I have to say, this Yanlong man is really daring. Isn't he afraid that the army of gods chosen from our Eurasian Federation will block him at the entrance and exit outside? Hey, brother upstairs, your news is too closed. The high-level empire in the present world has already issued an order to let those high-level god-chosen leaders in the Eurasian Federation lead the god-chosen fleet that can be dispatched to the place of death. The entrance and exit of the high dungeon went to ambush, otherwise you would think why it is so quiet in this world recently. Oh, Xiete, our top management can do it this time, and they reacted so quickly. Fart's reaction is quick. If it weren't for the treasures in the treasure house of the Chengxing Empire, do you think the top management of the empire would be so active? What the hell, a group of robbers. You don't have the ability to get it yourself, you just want to snatch the fruits of other people's labor. If you have the ability, go in and find it. Unsurprisingly, there was another quarrel in the chat channel of the live broadcast room. Mu Ningxie looked at the remarks inside. The beautiful willow eyebrows stood up coldly. If it wasn't for Li Chengxi's promise, she would take her daughter Qin Xiaoxiao to the other party's house for dinner today. She even wanted to single-handedly go to the palace of the Lighthouse Empire to wreak havoc again. The high level of these foreign devils is really too arrogant. He still didn't give up and wanted to play the idea of the treasure house of the Chengxing Empire in the dungeon of Sea of Death. It is true that the heart will not die until the Yellow River. It seems that the next time I have to give the palace of the Lighthouse Empire a ruthless one. Otherwise, they really think that in reality, they can sit back and relax and do whatever they want. Almost all the countries in the Eurasian Federation obey the orders of the Lighthouse Empire. So don't need too much. You only need to overturn half of the palace of the Lighthouse Empire. Those other countries immediately have to obediently weigh how much they have. For the outside world, Qin Tian naturally did not know. When he received the message, it was already after lunch. The news was sent by Nangongla to him. The content is very concise. Boss, those guys from the Eurasian Federation want to mess with you again. King me again. What are they trying to do? After seeing the content of the other party, Qin Tian was stunned for a moment and then subconsciously asked, then what can we do? Isn't it because of the treasury of the Chengxing Empire? 40 to 50,000 God-chosen set off towards the copy of the Sea of Death. The plan of the Lighthouse Empire is very simple, that is, waiting for you to come out. As soon as you come out, the boss, they plan to besiege you and force you to hand over the harvest of the treasure house. 92%. Chapter 465 Rui, you go spy on the enemy first. Look at the message sent by Nangongla. The corner of Qin Tian's mouth suddenly twitched into a wicked sneer. Although he had already guessed that those guys from the Eurasian Federation might have such an idea to deal with him. But when it does happen, he still couldn't help being a little angry and wanting to laugh. It seems that I was a little too kind before. The guy from the Eurasian Federation is so kind when he thinks about what good things he is about to get from the dungeon. They must try their best to rob him. How? Is this treating him as a charitable organization dedicated to distributing wealth, boy? In this case, then wait until the Sea of Death dungeon journey is over. I just went on a killing spree among the coalition forces of the Eurasian Federation, that's it. He wants to see it. How many thousands of battleships does the Eurasian Federation have enough to destroy by itself? Okay, I see. Since the people of the Eurasian Federation are rushing to die, I will fulfill them when the time comes. Thank you for your reminder, officer. After Qin Tian sent a thank you message to Nangongla. Then he led the fleet to continue to go deep inside. With continuous progress, Qin Tian found that although the corruptor battleships blocking his path were of higher and higher levels, the highest one that appeared was the corrupted King-class cruiser. Not even a King-class battleship. And as he goes deeper and deeper, it can be clearly seen from the planar map. The blue battleship icons representing wild monsters not only did not increase. Instead, it became extremely sparse. Within 30 nautical miles before, there are almost 200 or 300 blue battleship icons densely packed on his way forward. But now, take his nemesis as the center. All the blue icons within a radius of 30 nautical miles may not add up to 200 ships. For this change, Qin Tian felt a little worried in his heart. Captain, has the number of corroded battleships on the other side decreased a lot? Although Su Jian didn't have the ability to plan the map in Qin Tian's mind. But from a distance, the battle frequency that has not erupted once in a long time. Qin Tian still keenly sensed something was wrong. Facing Su Jian's question, Qin Tian nodded and said, it is possible that our whereabouts have been discovered. Since the corrupted and polluted Chosen One can organize the corruptor fleet inside to launch an ambush against other Chosen Ones, it is obvious that the other party has a way to detect the general location of other gods chosen. In that case, wouldn't it be possible for the other party to guess our next purpose? Su Jian's expression became serious. This possibility is not ruled out. Qin Tian nodded and said, so we need to prepare for a tough battle. If the opponent really ambushes us in the treasure house, then we have no way to avoid it. And just as Qin Tian and Su Jian guessed, in the next 2 days, the corruptor warships they encountered along the way were fewer and fewer. If there were any, they were all ordinary little karamis. Even if you kill it, you won't get anything good. This made Qin Tian feel a little dark fire in his heart. Special meow. I just want to come in and find a treasure, and by the way, get some satisfactory warships and go back to arm my fleet. As a result, both such small requests were stuck. Outside, those guys from the Eurasian Federation harassed endlessly. If you come in to make a copy, you will be raped by that guy Dick and you will be disgusted. Do you really think you are a clay figurine without any temper? Thinking of this, Qin Tian has already decided to settle accounts with that Dick. After all, this guy was trying to avenge his younger brother. Under the guise of the name of the Moore family, he led a fleet belonging to him to respond to Phyllis' call. I heard that this guy was jumping up and down in the fleet of the Eurasian Federation at that time, and he did not lack hatred for him. Although the dragon-slaying operation of the Eurasian Federation ended in failure. But Qin Tian never thought of letting go of this guy who has always been thinking about him. As the saying goes, don't be afraid of thieves stealing, but be afraid of thieves thinking about it. This kind of disaster will always be a threat to him. If it weren't for the Moore family's fear of handing over the other party to him, it would cause dissatisfaction with other fleets under their command. Qin Tian killed this guy long ago. Which round got the opponent? Now come to trip him up. Asking for flowers. Just had lunch at noon at Qin Tian. When secretly thinking about how to kill the other party. Su Jian suddenly ran over to find him, and then said with a serious face, "Captain, I feel the exact location of the treasure house, and it's about 100 kilometers away from us." "Oh, is it coming?" Qin Tian narrowed his eyes when he heard this, and then said, "Come on, let's go to the control room." Come to the control room. Qin Tian didn't hesitate, and said directly, "Sound the battle alarm." Then he said to Xin Qi, "Xiao Qi, inform everyone that all combatants should enter combat positions." Ever since such a sweet girl was assigned to the control room, Qin Tian handed over the job of broadcasting to the other party. "Yes, Captain. Hear Qin Tian's order. Everyone dare not neglect." Dong Zhuang sounded the battle alarm. The red warning light kept blinking. Let him see all the 10 warships behind him clearly. For a while, all the warships suddenly fell into a tense but orderly bustle. "Captain, Old Su, Captain, have you spotted the enemy?" Soon, Rui, Union, Li Yao and Wei Yu came to the control room. I saw that Su Jian was also there. After the four greeted each other, they hurriedly asked Qin Tian about the situation. Qin Tian nodded and said, "Old Su has already sensed that the treasure house is about 100 kilometers away from us, so next I need you to drive the mechs to the front to investigate the enemy situation in 3 directions. If you want to ambush, you need to estimate the number of the opponent's warships, and then come back to report, remember. Don't rush to fight the enemy." "Yes, Captain, we will pay attention." Hear Qin Tian's order. The 4 immediately took orders. Xin Qi, use the loudspeaker to inform Phoenix, let them release the undead nature on us. Qin Tian said to Xin Qi in front of the central control. Although it's just spying on the military situation. But who knows if there will be any unexpected situation ahead. So just in case, Qin Tian still asked Yao Lang and the others to put an undead buff on the goddess of Nemesis before talking about Fan. 92%. Chapter 466 Nemesis joins the battlefield. At least with the buff of undead nature, he can rest assured. "Okay, Captain," Xin Qi responded, and then picked up the microphone of the loudspeaker and put it near her mouth, saying, "Phoenix, please pay attention. Phoenix, please pay attention. This is Nemesis, please release to this ship. Undead nature. Under the suppression of the force field of death. The most effective way to communicate between these warships is this method of amplifying and calling directly into the microphone." Phoenix received. Phoenix received. Soon, Ma Fei's voice sounded from behind. Then the hull of the goddess of Nemesis shone with a faint red light. "Okay, you can go. Pay attention to safety. See that the buff of undead nature is already in place." Qin Tian said to the 4 people as 850. "Yes, Captain, let's go then." After speaking, the 4 turned and left the control room. Not for a while. The 4 mechas shot up into the sky spraying light particles. Quickly flew forward, because it's just going to the front to spy on the enemy. So neither Rui nor Union led their respective drone teams there. In the studio, the people who saw this scene were all envious. It's still convenient to use the mecha, it's really handsome. If I become the god's chosen one, even if I don't need to drive a boat, I can just go and activate the armor for God Qin. Bah, you still want to go in and operate the mecha. Even if Qin Shen is willing to take you in, we won't agree. No, 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 we promise, we are happy to promise. FKU, why are you everywhere? What do you promise? Let this guy go in and make me Qin Shen's mecha. There was a heated discussion in the live broadcast room. And Qin Tian waited quietly for more than 10 minutes. At the end of the distant sky, clusters of sparks burst out suddenly. "See here." Qin Tian frowned suddenly. Obviously, Rui and the others encountered an emergency. As the flames continued to spread to this side, there were explosions. Qin Tian immediately told Xin Qi and Zula to prepare to aim and fire. After about a few minutes, the unmanned fighter jets on the deck suddenly started to move by themselves. One after another, they took off from the two runways. Qin Tian came to the door, opened the door of the control room and looked into the sky. It can be seen in the sky dozens of kilometers away. Thousands of strange fighter planes with strange eyes and evil tentacles are engaged in fierce air combat with Rui and the others. This moment faced so many enemies. Rui, who was driving the mech with full firepower, fully demonstrated his SS plus level driving talent in the sky at this moment. He drove the huge mecha to make various difficult movements in the sky, flexibly evading maneuvers. If it is really unavoidable, use the energy shield and the super alloy shield in your hand to resist. Once there is a chance. He fought back. The 27mm cannon neutron beam cannon on the head fired simultaneously with the 6 plasma beam cannons on the shoulders and legs, and the standard Star C-30 beam rifle in the right hand. The huge and dazzling beam cannon swept across the sky in a few seconds like a cutting machine. In an instant, a dozen or even dozens of strange fighter jets would be destroyed. Burst a series of fireballs in the sky. Such a superb driving ability. Don't talk about others. Even Qin Tian felt hot when he saw it. Jingnan launched the giant ship cannon. Mecha is also one of the top choices. Although Union, Li Yao and Weiyu are far less capable than Rui. But with a strong physical responsibility, he was still driving the mecha to blow up the polluted and corroded fighter jets on the opposite side. And this phenomenon became more obvious immediately after the addition of dozens of unmanned fighter jets. Anyone can see it. These corruptor fighters are now a living target. In addition to being wiped out in the passage of time, it is impossible for them to cause any loss to Qin Tian's fleet. And at this moment, the upright Qin Tian, who was watching the one-sided battle in the sky, suddenly changed his expression. Because in the flat map in his mind, some blue battleship icons slowly emerged from the edge of the map. Facing his direction with a gap, a C-shaped formation slowly emerged. See this scene. There is no need to report them. Qin Tian also knew the corruptor ships were indeed ambushing him. And obviously, that guy Dick also knew as the battle started in the sky. Qin Tian must have known about their ambush. So at this moment, all the corruptor warships on the plane map started to move. It's pushing hard towards them. Qin Tian looked at the densely packed places on the map. There must be tens of thousands of corruptor battleship icons just for what you see now. After thinking for a while, he said to Chu Hongbao, "Hongbao, let the battleship go into the air. Xin Qi, tell the other warships to turn around. We need to use the kite flying method to deal with the enemy." "Yes, Captain," the two responded. Chu Hongbao then started to start the vertical takeoff and landing engine. The 6 huge jets on both sides lit up with faint blue flames. After Xin Qi called the other 10 battleships to turn around and prepare for kite-flying tactics, she quickly shouted on the battleship Nemesis through the radio, "The battleship is about to take off, please stand firm and support yourself." The battleship is about to take off, everyone please stand firm and support it. The clear and pleasant female voice broadcast 3 times in succession. As the engine power increases, the 0.1 increases. Then after a slight shake of the hull, it began to leave the sea and soar into the air. Help Ray and the others clear the sky of corruptor fighters, and then prepare to face the enemy fleet with all their might. See the battleship vacated smoothly. Qin Tian immediately said to several people in front of the center console. Yes, several people responded. Then he controlled the goddess of Nemesis, and flew in the direction of the battlefield in the sky. The hundreds of corruptor fighter planes that were fighting with Rui and the others saw a warship soaring into the sky and flying towards them. How could such a good opportunity be missed for a while? Immediately, a small half of the fighters were left to fight with Rui, Union and the others. The remaining hundreds of corruptor fighters left the battlefield without hesitation, and flew towards Qin Tian's Nemesis desperately. 92%. Chapter 467 Master the Air Supremacy, the war will start. While flying over, those corruptor fighter jets fired air-to-air missiles at the Nemesis from a distance. Rui and the others saw that it was the Nemesis coming. There is no intention of preparing assistance. In their view, just these little Karamis. It's not enough for Nemesis to get between its teeth. And Qin Tian's side, facing the thousands of air-to-air missiles flying oncoming. A translucent shield suddenly lit up around Goddess of Nemesis. All of a sudden, the thousands of air-to-air missiles were all blocked by the characteristic protection that was triggered when Li entered the combat mode. That Nemesis at this moment is blessed by the characteristics of Weihu and Su Jian. even though Li Yao's shield can only provide 10% of the battleship's HP protection. But that shield also has hundreds of thousands of protective energy. In addition, the defensive power of the goddess of Nemesis is as high as 40,000. After thousands of air-to-air missiles bombed, it also only knocked out 1/3 of the shield energy of the shield. And after those corruptor fighters fired a round of air-to-air missiles, what greeted them was the laser shooting of 4 Genesis-class Thunder Laser 21 air defense launchers. Although the accuracy of this big killer is a bit poor. However, 4 simultaneous fires, 36 laser cannons per minute, and occasionally 2 pulse lasers are fired. The hundreds of corroded fighters still suffered huge losses. Wait until they take a few breaths to fly over the Nemesis, while attacking with machine guns, while trying to bypass it and make a U-turn. However, they entered the range of 3,000 meters of the mythical Y-1130 close-in defense gun. 20 mythical Y-1130 close-in anti-aircraft guns fired at the same time. The terrifying bullet storm swept across the 3,000-meter field above the battleship in an instant. For a while, this place became the death penalty zone of the Nemesis. Countless flames flickered one after another immediately. Wait until 10 seconds pass. Those corroded fighter jets roared past. There are only 200 or 300 fighter jets left that can still fly in the air. But it's just such a short time. Rui's side had already ended the battle. There is no fire suppression by large-scale fighters. Rui's dealing with those dozens of corruptor fighters is as simple as eating and drinking. Just dealt with his opponent. Rui immediately drove the mecha and quickly passed the Nemesis. After the remaining 200 or 300 corruptor fighters, they chased after them. Shish. The standard Star C-30 beam rifle in his hand kept firing. Seeing that the energy of the mecha has stabilized to the standard line again, he stopped immediately. The several particle cluster cannons on the fuselage blasted out huge beams again. Directly killed a group of corruptor fighters in front of dozens of them. And as Rui controlled his unmanned fighter squadron to catch up and fight. Soon, the remaining less than 200 corruptor fighters were all wiped out. I'm sorry, Captain, we were discovered by the other party during our investigation, and we were besieged by those disgusting fighter planes. After destroying all corruptor fighters, Rui, Yun Yan and the others drove the mechs around the Nemesis, and Rui spoke to Qin Tian through a loudspeaker. Holding the microphone, Qin Tian also amplified and said, "It doesn't matter, the other party has a special method that can even detect our warships wherever they go, let alone detect your 4 mechas. Get ready, we will have a tough battle is about to be fought. I plan to eat all of this corrupted fleet. Do you have confidence?" "Of course not, Captain." Yun Yan smiled and said, "As you expected, the other side really has an ambush. I checked the direction at 2 o'clock just now, and found that there are about 10,000 warships there. I also saw 3 aircraft carriers inside. Some of those disgusting fighter jets flew from those aircraft carriers just now. Captain, I checked the direction at 11 o'clock. There seem to be more warships there than Sister Union's side. I feel that there must be at least 20,000 ships, but among those corroded battleships, I only saw an aircraft carrier." Wei Hu looked at Qin Tian and also reported, "Captain, Master Rui and I checked in the direction of 12 o'clock, and we found that there are countless warships in that sea area. It is conservatively estimated that there are 30,000 to 40,000 warships, and I glanced inside. I have seen more than a dozen aircraft carriers." Li Yao also reported, 18. Ray gave an exact figure. "Hear the report of these 4 people." Qin Tian nodded solemnly. This amount is a bit more than he estimated. But not too much to beat. Although it will definitely take a lot of effort. But it won't work if you don't fight. The only advantage now is that the opponent's air supremacy has been cut off. Although I don't know if the other party will regenerate after a while. But there is definitely no way in a short time. After thinking for a while, Qin Tian said to several people, "Okay, I understand, the next thing we have to face is the enemy's huge fleet." The enemy commander obviously knew that his ambush had been exposed, and all the warships were rushing here 117. At this moment, you first land the mechs and fighters on the battleship, replenish the undead characteristic, and then go to battle. When you fight later, you must take the time, and when the time for the undead characteristic is about to come back to replenish, but don't try to be brave. Quote. "Yes, Captain, we'll be on the lookout." After the 4 responded, they drove the mechs and landed on the flight deck over there one after another. Then Rui and Union used their brainwaves to control the unmanned fighter jets, making them all land safely. Qin Tian led Su Jian out of the control room. he said, hard work, to several people. Captain, don't worry, we will lead a group of unmanned fighter jets to attack from behind the enemy in a while, and try to divide their fleet into two parts. In this way, it will be much easier for you, Captain, to deal with 20,000 to 30,000 warships. We chatted briefly. Ray revealed his plan. Su Jian on the side listened for a while, then nodded and said, from the present point of view, this is indeed an impossible solution. Qin Tian knew that this was a problem caused by the opponent's absolute numerical advantage. If Rui and the others lead a group of unmanned fighters to attract a small number of corroded warships, that can indeed help him share a lot of fire suppression. 93%. Chapter 468. The enemy fleet divides its troops, a chance to wipe them out. Okay, then you will play by ear when the time comes. Jian Rui's plan was approved by Su Jian. Qin Tian immediately nodded and said, even if you can't attract them, it doesn't matter. You should protect yourself and kill the enemy's warships as much as possible, especially if you need to sink those aircraft carriers first. God knows whether the fighters on the opponent will be revived. I will use the method of flying a kite to go around in circles with the opponent. You need to help me monitor every move of the opponent's warship army from high altitude. Once they have any special movements, you must send someone to fly back to inform me. Quote. Yes, Captain, we will. Hear Qin Tian's words. Rui nodded solemnly and said, okay, there's nothing else to do, just set off when you're ready, the enemy's fleet is not far away from us. Qin Tian patted his shoulder and said. Everyone heard the words and hurriedly looked forward. Sure enough, it was on both sides of the end of the sea level. Two horn-like fleets, one on the left and one on the right, slowly appeared in their field of vision. Captain, let's set off first. Urgent situation. Rui didn't have time to say more. After greeting Qin Tian, the four quickly ran towards their respective mechs. And Qin Tian brought Su Jian back to the control room. Xin Qi, inform Yao Lang and ask them to use the characteristics of Phoenix to buff Nemesis Y. Qin Tian ordered to say. Xin Qi heard the words, picked up the loudspeaker and shouted hastily. Soon the hull of the goddess of Nemesis was once again buffed by the undead nature buff, and a layer of red light appeared. Rui and the others drove the mechs, controlled the drone fighter group to quickly take off from the battleship, and rushed towards the dark and corroded fleet in the distance. And Qin Tian said to Chu Hongbao, Hongbao lowers the flight altitude of our battleship, Shaoqi, Lunan, and Lao Dong, let me bombard him with plasma ships for a few minutes. Yes, Captain, get this order from Qin Tian. After a few people responded, they immediately began to control excitedly. For this epic-making super powerful new weapon, no one can resist its charm. I saw Nemesis first lowered the flight altitude. Then the gun barrel of the Creation-class plasma naval cannon on the deck began to light up, accompanied by the electric light flashes of the focuser and the amplifier. A huge lightning ball was quickly condensed out. Then, under the super-strong kinetic energy, there was a sound of. It was launched at a speed invisible to the naked eye. Boom. In the far left fleet, it can be clearly seen that a corroded battleship exploded into a ball of fire. And Xin Qi, Lunan and Dong Zhuang carried out Qin Tian's order very obediently. Genesis-class plasma naval gun began to fire continuously. Thanks to Qin Tian, the shipboard small nuclear power plant installed as of the Genesis level have the strength and confidence to do so. If this is a shipboard small nuclear power plant with a lower level, it is estimated that few rounds were fired. It was completely overloaded by this high-power naval gun and ran out of power. But no matter how powerful Qin Tian's Creation-class plasma gun is, facing the tens of thousands of corroded fleets is just a drop in the bucket. Bombed wildly for several minutes. In the end, it only sank dozens of warships. On the contrary, it was Rui who flew over the fleet and brought them a lot of trouble. According to Qin Tian's request, Rui and the others first fought closely against the opponent's aircraft carrier. In just a short while, 2 corroded King-class aircraft carriers and 4 corroded ordinary aircraft carriers were eliminated. As for those other small Kurami warships, there are hundreds if not 1,000. Moreover, the 2 King-class aircraft carriers that they had dealt with had actually exploded treasure chests. Even if it's far away, Qin Tian can also see the opponent's fleet. The glow from the mythical level treasure chests shining with magnificent colors and the colorful creation level treasure chests. This makes Qin Tian incomparable. Be envious. I thought to myself, why can't my mythical treasure chest picker expand the range further? Get 50 kilometers. Doesn't this just happen to be picked up automatically? It's a pity that I can only think about it. And he is greedy. It is absolutely impossible for him to rush over to lick the bag now. The opponent has tens of thousands of corroded warships that are far stronger than ordinary warships of the same level. If he doesn't keep a safe distance of 40 or 50 kilometers, at that time, 100% will fall here. He's on a treasure hunt. You didn't come to this dungeon to die. Anyway, the air supremacy is in his hands. And his metal sheet supplies are abundant. As long as he is patient. I don't believe that half a month can't wear down this corroded fleet. Anyway, the treasure house is there. It won't run away with long legs. In this way, after playing for 5 or 6 hours according to the kite flying style, a mecha suddenly ejected light particles and came to the nemesis. Qin Tian took a look. It turned out to be Li Yao's mecha. This made him a little confused. I thought to myself, isn't this girl just ran over 10 minutes ago to add undead nature buff? How did this come back again? And before he could think about it, Li Yao turned on the mecha loudspeaker and shouted, Captain, there are 2 corroded fleets separated from the main force from the rear and sailing towards our 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock directions respectively. Intended to intercept us in a roundabout way. Hearing Li Yao's words, Qin Tian raised his eyebrows slightly. Li Jiao, Su Jian said, Captain, it seems that the person who controls the fleet behind the scenes is a little restless. They are just right. The captain can ask Captain Li to monitor the movements of the 2 fleets. When they are far away, let Rui and the others lead the drone fighter fleet to go directly to wipe out the 2 separated fleets. This can not only effectively annihilate the other party's vital force, but also deter the person who controls the enemy fleet behind the scenes from daring to divide troops to intercept us easily. Hear what Su Jian said. Qin Tian nodded in agreement. Using a loudspeaker, he said to Li Yao, Xiao Yao, go and inform Rui and the others, or send out 2 drones to monitor the 2 fleets, or send out 2 of you to monitor the 2 fleets. Once you find that the 2 fleets are far away, give me priority to wipe out the 2 fleets, let the other party feel sorry for them, and see if they dare to divide their forces again. Quote. 93%. Chapter 469 Actually Playing Dirty, Cecily's Flare Gun. The clever Li Yao quickly understood the purpose of this order. After answering, understood, she turned around while driving the mecha. Then fly away quickly. And Qin Tian looked at the other person's leaving figure. Then think about the information the other party just said. I can't help but feel a little surprised. It stands to reason that the detection range of his flat map has always been a mystery. The outside audience watching his live broadcast. Although I know that he has the ability to detect the surrounding. But it is also impossible to know the specific scope of his detection. As for Dick's situation in which the 2 fleets were separated, his planar map didn't show it at all. Obviously, these small actions of the opponent just avoided the detection range of his flat map. Is this a coincidence, or is there something else hidden in it? Qin Tian was uncertain, but he became more and more cautious about the mystery and weirdness of this sea of death. He stared at the frontline battlefield on the flat map with his thoughts. After Li Yao's mecha icon returned to the battlefield, it can be seen that the 2 aircraft icons are quickly leaving the battlefield in the direction of 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. Take a look at this situation. Qin Tian raised his eyebrows slightly. Is this an unmanned fighter jet controlled by RUI 177, or is it controlled by him and Yun Yan? Is it possible that after a while, these 2 people still plan to lead their own unmanned fighter jets to fight the 2 fleets? Is this going to be a little too big? An hour or so passed like this. After Rui, Union and the air combat units flew back one after another to replenish the new undead nature buff, they flew back to the battlefield and wreaked havoc on 100 warships. Rui and Union suddenly led their respective unmanned fighter groups out of the battlefield. Fly directly towards the periphery on both sides. Only Li Yao and Wei Yu were left above the opponent's fleet, using particle beam cannons to continuously harvest the corroded warships below. One side is also responsible for monitoring the movement of the other side's fleet. Although there is some worry in my heart. But Qin Tian just asked Li Yao when he was replenishing buff and recharging the mecha. The 2 separately separated fleets of the other party probably have about 5 or 6,000 warships each. This amount should not be difficult for Rui and Union. So Qin Tian shook his head and put these worries back in his stomach. Still watching Dong Zhuang and Xin Qi controlling the Genesis-class plasma naval cannon to show off their power. 10 minutes passed without incident. Just when Qin Tian relaxed and chatted with Su Jian. Sudden mutation. Thousands of blue fighter jet icons suddenly appeared on the flat map in his mind. Watching those blue fighter jet icons continuously surround Li Yao and Wei Yu's mechs, Qin Tian's complexion changed immediately. Lie on. How could I forget this? If these thousands of corroded fighter jets rush over his nemesis, has Su Jian, it's no big deal. But what about the battleships ahead of him? Phoenix, what should I do? The Phoenix aircraft carrier is the umbrella for his mecha and all fighter jets. It would have been sunk here. Then he would be at a loss. Captain, what's the matter? Su Jian, who was chatting speculatively, found that Qin Tian suddenly became silent. When you look up again, it was discovered that Qin Tian's complexion had become extremely ugly. Su Jian's heart moved, knowing that something must have gone wrong on the battlefield. Immediately couldn't help asking, "Damn Dick, you are so cunning." After cursing secretly in my heart, Qin Tian immediately said to Su Jian, "Old Su, we were fooled. The other party is a master of scheming, and deliberately used 2 fleets to attract Rujin Union and the unmanned fighter group they led. Now the opponent has revived thousands of corroded fighter jets, and they are currently besieging CBDH, Li Yao and Wei Yu. With their piloting skills and fewer enemies, I guess they will be defeated in a short time up." Quote. At this moment, he completely understood the doorway. No matter what strange powers are in this sea of death, our Dick's wisdom is indeed far beyond ordinary people. Anyway, he was given a complete set by the opponent this time. Now under the suppression of the force field of death, he couldn't contact Rui and Union at all. And Li Yao and Wei Yu were also entangled and unable to escape. Once their mechs were destroyed, at that time, the opponent's group of corroded fighter jets will rush over like a tiger into a herd, frantically tearing the other 10 warships of his fleet into pieces. Qin Tian didn't care about the other warships. What he cared about was the Phoenix and the more than 2,000 crew members. If Rui and Union can't come back in time, 100% of his 10 warships will be reimbursed here. Qin Tian asked Shin Qi to try to contact Rui and Yun Yan. But the result naturally ended in failure. Su Jian frowned and thought about it, but there was no good solution, and he couldn't help sighing, "It would be great if we could have a flare." He does not mean that. There was a flash of inspiration in Qin Tian's mind immediately. Yes, just the dark environment of Sea of Death. A flare was fired. I'm afraid it can be clearly seen in a radius of 100 kilometers. Fortunately, this Sea of Death can't isolate anything from the trading market and the God-chosen chat channel where the rules of the universe circulate. Otherwise, this could really drive him to nowhere. Qin Tian opened the chat interface between Zhang Zongjun, Nangongla and Vanessa, who are often in touch with them. With a thought, they started to send out group messages. "Everyone, help the world. Whoever of you has such items as flares or flare guns, please trade them for me, I need them urgently." Not to mention, Qin Tian's advantage of being helpful at ordinary times has played a huge role at this moment. Received his message. Everyone is very attentive. And then there are few seconds. Cecily sent him back a message. "Qin, did you encounter any difficulties? I opened a treasure chest some time ago and found a legendary quality flare gun, which happened to be traded to you, so you can use it first." Finished. The other party initiated a transaction application to him. Put a flare gun up. Qin Tian was immediately overjoyed when he saw this. Send a message quickly. "Cecily, what do you need? I will trade it to you." As a result, the other party responded to the message in seconds. "There is nothing you need. Don't you need it urgently? Why don't you hurry up and click OK to use it? What are you waiting for?" 93%. Chapter 470 Messenger of Death, Dick. Read this message from Cecily. Qin Tian glanced over. It was only then that he discovered that the other party had actually made a confirmation in advance. Obviously, the other party planned to give him this signal gun from the very beginning. "Thanks, Cecily, you really did me a big favor this time." Qin Tian replied to her. Immediately, she was no longer a mother-in-law. Choose to confirm, and the transaction will be ended soon. Transaction complete. Immediately, an orange gun appeared in his hand. He raised the gun in his hand and waved it at Su Jian, and said to the latter, "Old Su, thanks to your reminder, otherwise Phoenix might not be able to survive." Finished. He hurriedly came to the control room. Standing on the stairs, raised the flare gun in his hand to the sky and pulled the trigger. Boom. Only a soft sound was heard. An orange-red signal flare soared into the sky. After ascending to the limit height, it exploded like fireworks. Far away, the traces of those two fleets have been seen. Rui and Union, who were about to attack, immediately spotted the extremely bright flare. For a while, the hearts of the two of them thumped at the same time. Not good, Tien. Immediately, the two couldn't take care of the task of destroying the two fleets. Turn around. Leading a group of unmanned fighter jets began to return quickly. Damn trading and chat system. And at this moment, behind a fleet of corroded warships, inside a huge, deep purple aerospace aircraft carrier, a man who was more than 3 meters tall and deformed all over his body raised his head and let out a roar that seemed to come from the nine nether hell. This creature is none other than Dick, the captain of the second fleet of the former family fleet that was abandoned by the Moore family. At this time, apart from his stature, he could still be seen as a human being. The remaining 70% of the external organs have already undergone serious distortions. His left hand turned into a sharp and slender giant claw, and a sharp curved bone blade extended from the wrist of his right hand. Apart from disgusting pustules and a few palpitating eyeballs on its body, there is also a tail like a steel whip at the back. For Qin Tian, it was a good thing to be able to trade the flare gun. Dick's heart was full of unwillingness and anger. If it wasn't for this flare gun, after his fighter plane solved the two mechs, if only Qin Tian's battleship could be entangled again. Give him the opportunity to surround the tens of thousands of corruptor fleets he assembled. He can definitely force Qin Tian to stay today, and then a group of warships will surround him and beat him to death. In this way, not only can he avenge the murder of his brother, it can be regarded as getting the interest of letting the Moore family give up him. Recently, in order to punish the Moore family, the selfish, capitalist family that he had been loyal to, he is in the instance of Sea of Death. As long as he is aware of the Moore family's fleet entering by relying on the force field of death under his control, he will immediately dispatch the corroded fleet closest to the Moore family fleet to ambush and encircle the Moore family fleet. Even later, the Moore family fleet divided the entire fleet into scattered teams and ran in to hunt treasures. It will also be discovered by him in the first place, and dispatched corroded warships to the past to encircle and suppress. Have to say, after falling into the death messenger of the Sauron civilization, only then did he experience what it means to be a real god in this copy of Sea of Death. The god's chosen one who enters this dungeon in everything, as long as he wants. All can be recorded by a kind of information magnetic field collecting and sensing ability of the force field of death. Moreover, this kind of information magnetic field collection and sensing ability will also intelligently sort the collected information into ranks and ranks. The higher the strength, the higher the level is. So when Qin Tian and the others came in, only then will Dick pay attention to it immediately. And made so many targeted adjustments later. And most importantly, the information magnetic field collection and sensing system that comes with the death force field also has powerful functions of deduction and prediction. The reason why Qin Tian sent 2 mechas with a group of unmanned fighter jets to destroy the 2 fleets he sent. It is the maximum result deduced and predicted by this information magnetic field collection and induction system. This powerful pleasure of being able to control the life and death of others at will. It just made him want to stop. I knew that I fell into the Sauron civilization, and it was so cool after becoming the messenger of death in the Sea of Death copy. Asking for flowers. Then why did he do this earlier? There is no need to suffer from so many natural disasters and high-level family members outside. Today's Moore family fleet has been destroyed by him so that no one dares to come in and seek death. But right now, Qin Tian couldn't be dealt with Yin. Dick decided. Then he would simply use his 3-inch tongue. Bewitched Qin Tian. If Qin Tian's heart is moved, he can join his camp. At that time, I will brainwash Qin Tian with the blessing of Sauron civilization. Maybe he could even trick the other party into giving him the powerful Nemesis battleship for nothing. Until then, without the support of battleships, I am the messenger of death in the copy of Sea of Death. How about dealing with an ordinary human god's chosen? How do you handle it? It was as if he had already seen the scene where Qin Tian was trampled under his feet and wantonly humiliated. Dick's breathing became short of excitement. With a thought. The huge 500 to 600 meter aerospace aircraft carrier under his feet has more than a dozen huge tentacles extending from the deck. Those tentacles seemed to be alive, waving gently. Then it drove the whole battleship to fly flexibly from the sea. Fly alone in the direction of Qin Tian. In the control room of Nemesis, Qin Tian is anxiously waiting for Rui and Union's return. As a result, the flat map in his mind showed that a corroded battleship icon that was larger than other corroded battleship icons was slowly approaching. When the distance between the two sides is about 20 kilometers, Qin Tian could barely see the appearance of the opponent's battleship. It is actually an aerospace aircraft carrier that can already fly. But looking at the strange appearance of the opponent's warship full of disgusting tentacles, even without speaking, Qin Tian has roughly been able to guess who is on board this corroded aerospace aircraft carrier. But compared to those more scalp-numbing organ-complete battleship skins on the sea, this is just a warship skin with more than a dozen tentacles, which is undoubtedly more pleasing to the eye. 93%. Chapter 471 Qin Tian. Those who know current affairs are outstanding. When Qin Tian carefully looked at Dick's warship in the distance. Qin Tian, hello, first time meeting, let me introduce myself first. My name is Dick, I am the captain of the second fleet of the former Moore family. Thanks to you, I am now the messenger of death in the instance of Sea of Death. As expected, the other party soon began to blow up the portal. However, Qin Tian could still understand the first identity the other party said. But the second death messenger in the Sea of Death dungeon made Qin Tian confused. Could this be the new identity of the other party after his fall? It sounds like it has a bit of status. I just don't know if it's true or not. I know you, don't be so rambunctious, what do you want to say when you come out alone to find me? If you fart, let it go, if it's okay, I'll bombard you. Qin Tian said. 173. Not polite to each other. With a thought. 3 Genesis-class triple-mounted Mk 406mm main naval guns were fired by him with 3 consecutive must-hit guns. Ha ha ha, God Qin really made me laugh so hard, he just fired the cannon when he said it, I'm not joking with you at all. It is estimated that this Dick is also very confused at the moment. Why is he talking so well on the front foot, but the back foot directly gave him a 3-in-1 hit? Oh, Xie Te, isn't this Qin Tian too insidious? Isn't this clearly a sneak attack? Wow, the guy upstairs is poisonous, right? The other party is a scum who has betrayed human beings and thrown himself into the arms of alien civilizations, yet you still help him. Fact, I didn't, I was just telling the truth. No matter how hot the chat in the live broadcast room is. Anyway, Dick's sense of experience is indeed extremely poor now. He originally thought that Qin Tian was just trying to scare him. Just say it. But who would have thought that the other party would actually fire? Boom boom boom. Accompanied by more than 20 artillery shells, all of them hit his battleship with incomparable precision. The terrifying explosion damage immediately caused the tentacles to twist and tremble indiscriminately. Some of the smaller ones were blown off in the middle. Yellow pus splattered everywhere. Far away, Qin Tian saw a scarlet blood streak floating from the top of the opponent's head. It's just because of the distance. It's not very clear. So Qin Tian thought. Directly used divine detective technique on it. Name: Shadow Angel Medium Attack Aerospace Carrier. Load capacity: 121,750 tons. Displacement: 133,900 tons. 580 times 48 times 26. Flight deck M 550 times 43. Carrier aircraft 0106. Health volume 67,824,268 million. I7896890360. Defense 28,000. Fire control system. Power system. Biological engine. Flying drive. Death field power. Speed 33 knots. Weapon system. Neutral particle cannon Orange X3. Black Death Ray Cannon Orange X2. Dark Snake Air Defense Missile Launcher Orange Death Matrix Short Range Defense System Orange 1. Carrier aircraft. Legendary Corrupted Fighter X-40. Legendary Corrupted Fighter X-60. Fire control radar. Missile device. Radar system. Features. It has the function of information magnetic field collection and induction and deduction and prediction function, and can read and deduce and predict the person information scanned and recorded by the place of death force at will. Introduction. This is a degenerate human race who was forced to betray his own race, fell into the arms of the advanced twin Sauron civilization, and was given the status of messenger of death. Although his DNA and body structure were transformed by the power of corrosion, it also gave him unimaginably powerful. Hiss. When seeing the details of this Dick, Qin Tian narrowed his eyes slightly. There was a storm in my heart. Information magnetic field collection induction function. Can you freely read and deduce and predict the character information scanned and recorded by the place of death force? What kind of abnormal ability is this? Could it be that his previous decision, as well as Rui and Union's plan to divide their forces to attack the two fleets, were predicted by deduction in this way? This is too scary. So how strong is the twin Sauron civilization? Not even a place of despair that has been left behind for an epic. After being compressed into a copy by the will of the planet. To be able to lure a god's chosen into their camp, and transform him to such a terrifying level. This twin Sauron civilization will not be as described in the Earth Star Network article. Is it a powerful civilization of gods similar to those old rulers in the Cthulhu mythology? How else to explain Dick's dramatic change? And in the face of Qin Tian's must-hit 3 consecutive shots that don't talk about martial arts. Dick was angry though, but in the blink of an eye, he hid all the anger in his heart again. Then he said to Qin Tian as if nothing had happened, Qin Tian, you are not enough in my eyes now. The reason why I took the initiative to talk to you is because I don't want you to be buried by such amazing strength. Although his voice was ugly, it contained a kind of bewitching power that made one couldn't help but want to listen to it. It's just that this move is obviously not very common for Qin Tian, who is a man of 3 generations and has an extremely powerful mental power. And Qin Tian watched as he withstood a round of must-hit 3 consecutive bombardments. But only Dick, who had lost 170,000 to 80,000 blood. Qin Tian frowned slightly involuntarily. He felt the difficulty of the other party. Come on, you deliberately ran out of 0.2 to talk to me, what are you planning to talk about? Qin Tian looked at the other party and asked. Actually, it's nothing, I just want to persuade you. Dick said with a faint smile. Persuade me? What can you persuade me? Betray humanity like you and become a running dog of a foreign race. Qin Tian snorted disdainfully and said. Qin Tian, to use the old saying of your Yanlong Empire, it is called a man who knows the current affairs as a good man. You have seen my current strength, but I have only been given the status of an ordinary management, and I have only absorbed the Sea of Death. If you are willing to join the camp of Sauron civilization, if you are willing to join the camp of Sorin's civilization, then with your talent and strength, I believe that you can get these powers at your fingertips, and you will even get more than me. It was beyond Qin Tian's expectation. Dick actually opened his mouth and offered him an olive branch. 93%. Chapter 472. All right, stop beeping, hit if you want. Obviously, the other party wants to be a lobbyist. He also recruited the traitorous human race into the twin Sauron civilization. While being amazed by the other party's behavior, Qin Tian also had a vague idea of the power of this Sea of Death. Sea of Death, in the dungeon, 20% of the control power of the force field of death can raise a well-qualified god's chosen to a terrifying level with 68 million blood and a maximum attack power of 90,000. High. Then if he controls all the force fields in the entire instance, wouldn't he become an invincible existence with more than 300 million HP and more than 400,000 attack power? It's just a heartbeat. But Qin Tian didn't believe that the other party would have such kindness. Sea of Death has so much power of death now. It is a complete force field of death created by all the creatures of the Chengxing Empire in the last era. Now each of these energies is controlled by one less. Qin Tian didn't believe that the other party would be willing to give up such a tempting cake. There must be some conspiracy here. Thinking of these 21, Qin Tian deliberately said, Dick, you treat me as a 3-year-old child. You don't enjoy such a great benefit to yourself, and you would be willing to give some of it to me. I remember, your brother still died by my hand. And heard these words of Qin Tian. Dick hasn't said anything yet. The people watching in the live broadcast room couldn't sit still anymore. Wow, God Qin, what does this mean? Why are you talking about this with the other party when you have nothing to do? You can just FK him. Fake. Could it be that Qin Tian was moved by what Dick said? For the sake of power, he really wants to throw himself into the arms of the alien twin Sauron civilization like the other party. Hey, don't talk nonsense. Qin God just asked a few questions. How could I think of betraying our human race? I was harassed by people from your Eurasian Federation day and night before, and I have resisted it. Now I am strong. Woke up. How could you give up halfway to betray? Hey, that's not sure. There was no chance before, but now such a good opportunity is in front of him. Who knows if he will give up everything for the sake of strength? Hey, what's the matter? Are you scared? Didn't you people from the Eurasian Federation hate me, God Qin? Why are you so excited now? Nonsense. Can you not be excited? Nowadays, no one with a discerning eye knows that Qin God will be our blue star's super main force against the Zarare civilization. It can withstand the invasion of the Zarare civilization. Qin Tian and Dick were naturally unaware of the remarks in the live broadcast room. It's just facing Qin Tian's remarks. However, Dick patted his chest and said solemnly, Qin Tian, don't worry about this. Now I have become the death messenger of the twin Sauron civilization, the starting point of all actions. Naturally, it is based on the benefit of the twin Sauron civilization in itself. A god chosen with strong talent like you, if you are willing to join the twin Sauron civilization under my persuasion, that will definitely be highly recognized by the core of Death Force field. At that time, as your introducer, I will also get a good reward, and maybe I can increase the control power by another 10 percentage points. Quote. Hear Dick's words. Only then did Qin Tian suddenly realize. He just said it. How could Dick, who originally had a blood feud, suddenly be so magnanimous? He is also willing to share a part of the cake to invite him to join the twin Sauron civilization. Feelings are the idea. He wanted to rely on him to obtain the 10% control over the force field of death. The opponent has already controlled 20% of the force field of death. If you add this 10%, that is to have more than a quarter of the control rights. At that time, I don't know to what extent the strength will be improved. And even if he took refuge in the past, as a newcomer, there will certainly not be any good resources in the early stage. It's 10% dead. And what if it is in this copy of Sea of Death? The power of the same source, those who control more have absolute oppression over those who control less. Then he is simply like a sheep entering the tiger's mouth and binding himself in a cocoon. Think clearly about these. Qin Tian sneered at Dick and said, I said why you are so kind and willing to give up your hatred towards me, it turned out to be because of this reason. Dick's voice came lukewarm. Qin Tian, you should thank me. From me, you must be able to see how powerful the twin Sauron civilization is. No matter how strong you are, you can lead the Blue Star chosen to survive the invasion of the Zarian civilization and the three civilizations of Novi and Ryan. But facing the twin Sauron civilizations, Blue Star has absolutely no chance of winning. You can help them once, can you help them again and again? Let's go further. When you go out into the universe in the future, can't you turn back in an instant because of the attack on the Blue Star? Even if you have that technology, how many starships can you fight against alone? A series of questions were asked. Everyone in the studio fell silent. Everyone knows the other side is right. Qin Tian is only as strong as he alone. And these civilizations such as the Zarian civilization and the twin Saurons, their overall strength is one by one perverted. It is not comparable to the blue 940-star civilization at all. It's just that Qin Tian didn't care about these things and gave a kai laugh. He said directly, okay, stop beeping in vain, hit if you want, don't waste time. To him, there is actually no way to improve the overall strength of the Chosen One. As long as everyone is willing to pay for his advanced blueprints. Then give him a little handling fee. Then he can easily quickly increase the overall strength of God's Chosen One. It's just that the Eurasian Federation of World of Warships is still a threat to him. And his own battleship has not been upgraded to a starship. So he has not revealed his method until now. Wait for the Zarians to invade. When all the Chosen Ones were forced to stand together as a rope. He will naturally surprise everyone. So he really wasn't too worried about Dick's question. And hearing Qin Tian's clean and tidy answer, Dick thought he didn't make it clear, so he couldn't help but said again, Qin Tian, maybe you didn't understand. Enough. However, Qin Tian was too lazy to talk nonsense with him, and interrupted him directly. 94%. Chapter 473 Rui and Union come back, Su Jian's method. I heard it very clearly, you don't need to waste your words. Facing Dick who still wants to work harder. Qin Tian said lightly, as a human being, it is impossible for me to betray the human race. Also, do you think I'd agree to make my own ship look like yours? Presumably your own body has been mutated under the erosion of this corrosive force. I don't want my body to be covered with pustules and maggots to survive in this world. Ha ha ha. Beautiful. God Qin is right. Our human race is the greatest nation in the universe, and we do not accept any rebuttals. I love it. I have to say that Qin Tian is indeed a God's chosen who can be relied on and trusted to be able to so simply reject this temptation of strength. Speaking of which, Qin Tian really doesn't owe us anything. With the other party's means and skills, once the warship is upgraded to a star warship, I'm afraid he can live well even in the universe. Once the Zor people invade, all we can rely on is that the Yanlong people's love for their wives will make him guard our planet without hesitation, so those high-level idiots with fat heads, stop your stupidity behavior. That's right, Tian's eyes are fixed on Qin Tian of the Yanlong Empire. Can't you see how many citizens in this world are about to starve to death? Following Qin Tian's words, as a human being, it is impossible to betray the human race. At this moment, half of the people of the Eurasian Federation in the live broadcast room were aroused with passion in their hearts. At this moment, everything turned to Qin Tian's side. An in-world of warships. Dick, who was pushed back by Qin Tian's words, thought of his current ugly appearance, and immediately roared with anger trembling all over his body. Fact, Qin Tian, how dare you refuse? How dare you refuse the great twin Sauron civilization? Believe me, you will regret it sooner or later. Boom boom boom. It's just that he just said those words. What greeted him was a series of must-hit 3 consecutive 406mm main naval gun shells, as well as that round of Genesis-class plasma naval guns. Tentacles that have just recovered and grown. At this moment, he suffered another fatal blow. Plasma shells flickering with electric arcs bombarded the Shadow Angel. The terrifying explosion directly blasted the broken tentacles on the deck into coke. Those that are not broken are all retracted below the deck. Never dare to stand up again. Without the waving and swaying of these tentacles. The entire Shadow Angel also began to fall slowly as if it had lost its engine power. It soon landed in the ocean, fleeing away in embarrassment in the direction of his own fleet. And Qin Tian didn't want to pursue him firmly. Corroded battleships generally have the ability to absorb the remains of corpses in the sea to replenish blood. He didn't believe that the opponent, as the commander of the corrupted fleet, could not have this most basic ability. Want to destroy each other. It is still possible to use Rui and Union's mechas and unmanned fighter jets to match their nemesis, to encircle and beat him after he has been beaten into a bare-bones commander. And most importantly, at this moment, Qin Tian has already saw Rui and Union rushing towards this side with their respective drone fighter groups at the edge of the flat map in his mind. But at this moment, Li Yao and Weiyu, who had been working hard to control the mechs, finally exploded in midair because their blood was exhausted. Fortunately, there is a bonus of undead nature. Even death. 10 minutes later they could also be reborn on the deck of the Nemesis. This is the frightening thing about Phoenix. So it is naturally impossible for Qin Tian to let something happen to the Phoenix. He immediately gave Chu Hongbao an order. Hongbao, raise the battleship, and go up to those corruptor fighter planes for me, and don't let any corruptor fighter planes attack the battleships behind us. Understood. Press. Hear Qin Tian's order. Chu Hongbao responded. Then increase the output power of the engine, while using naval guns and Genesis-class Thunder laser anti-aircraft launcher to continuously attack the oncoming corruptor fighter group. While using its huge hull to block all corruptor fighters to attract their attention and firepower. And this is naturally in Dick's arms. He originally wanted to let the corruptor warships entangle Qin Tian's nemesis, so that the corroded warships would come forward to surround Qin Tian's flagship for siege and annihilation. It's just that he hasn't waited for his fleet to advance many kilometers. Rui and Union flew back with their respective drone fighter groups. I saw that my flagship, Nemesis, was actually surrounded and attacked by a group of corruptor fighter jets. The two immediately became angry. Furious, he led the unmanned fighter group to attack those corruptor fighters fiercely. Rui and Union drove dozens of unmanned fighter jets in their mechas to attack wildly. Not long after, the thousands of corruptor fighters were wiped out. Captain, are you all right? After getting rid of these annoying flies. While Rui and Union controlled the mechs to fall back to the battleship deck to replenish undead nature and recharge, they also asked their captain concerned. It's okay. Qin Tian waved his hands, and said to the two of them, fortunately, you came back in time, and then give me all the power to consume the corroded battleship fleet in front of me. The other party has the means to monitor our whereabouts, so there is no need to engage in other tricks. The two fleets released before are actually bait, in order to attract the two of you out, so that the other party can resurrect the fighter group to deal with our warships. Quote. Damn, is it so cloudy? Rui frowned when he heard Qin Tian's words. Because of his always very cold personality, Rao couldn't help opening his mouth and swearing at this moment. Captain, we can actually do this, but the implementation of this plan requires Rui and the others to wipe out the opponent's fleet in 7s and 80s before it can be implemented. At this time, Su Jian suddenly spoke beside him. One sentence attracted everyone's attention. Grandpa Su, what can we do? Tell me quickly. Yun Yan urged anxiously and curiously. 94%. Chapter 474. Sink the opponent's aircraft carrier and compete for air supremacy. The strength of the opponent's battleship really cannot be underestimated. If you only rely on the current battleship and the equipment on your mechs to deal with it, it will indeed be somewhat difficult. Hearing Yun Yan's urging, Su Jian didn't hold back, and after organizing his words, he said quickly. So I need you to help our captain eliminate those miscellaneous fish warships as much as possible. Wait until the number of corroded warships is reduced to less than 20,000. Captain, you can now control the Nemesis to make a forcible assault in the direction of the treasure house. When I reach the coordinates of that area, the old man, I will use my spiritual imprint to directly open the treasure house portal. Captain, your battleship is just going in. I once placed some commemorative warships and mecha equipment in the treasure house, and in order to prevent rust and corrosion, I also specially soaked them with anti-volatile repair fluid to preserve them. Although an era has passed, there may not be no equipment that can continue to be used after a little maintenance. Quote. Wow, Grandpa Su, you still have such a skill. That's great. We don't need many mechas. As long as we can equip them with the matching 4th generation equipment, our strength can be directly improved by several levels. After hearing Su Jian's words, Yun Yan jumped 3 feet high happily. Laughing eyes are narrowed. She never expected to have such a surprise. If it is equipped with those 430s, it can blast 60,000 to 70,000, or even more than 100,000 damage in one shot. Then they deal with these corroded warships. Isn't it just like playing? Especially Rui, the head of the team. Equip those awesome cluster cannons. After a wave, if you don't hit 500,000 or 600,000 damage, you will be sorry for the high-end operation of your team leader. Even Rui's eyes lit up when he heard the news. Not to mention Qin Tian. This was indeed a great surprise. But at this moment, accompanied by a burst of golden light shining on the deck, 2 mechas appeared there one after another. It was Li Yao, Wei Yu and the mecha they were driving that were resurrected. With the cockpit door open, the 2 came out from inside with pale faces. CBDH. Sorry, Captain, we didn't make it to the end. Li Yao and Wei Yu walked over, and said with some self-reproach. I don't blame you, it's because I didn't expect the other party to have the ability to monitor the entire Sea of Death dungeon, but I won't give the other party any more chances. Qin Tian patted the shoulders of the 2 of them, without the slightest intention of blaming them, and comforted them. Since we can't reap the expected results on Qi, then we will fight with each other openly. We have more resources, yes, the only problem is that you have to work hard for several days in a row. Hey, what's the point? Back when I was fighting against the twin Sauron civilization, it was commonplace to fight at high intensity for more than 10 days in a row, let alone dealing with such a small miscellaneous fish. It's not too easy. Yun Yan smiled, and said to Qin Tian indifferently, Captain, don't worry, in a few days, at most 2 days, we can reduce the opponent's fleet to only 10 or 20,000 warships. Okay, since this is the case, I will leave it to you, let's do it. I heard Yun Yan say this. Qin Tian also had some confidence in his heart. He nodded in agreement with the plan. Everyone, let's go. Let that shady person opposite us taste our wrath. With the consent of Qin Tian, Yun Yan immediately waved her jade hand, hugged Li Yao's fragrant shoulders imposingly and said, Yao Yao, follow me in a while, and see how I can avenge you. Okay, those ugly corruptor fighters bully the few. This time we'll give priority to finding those aircraft carriers to fight them. Li Yao also said angrily. The 2 hit it off. Immediately, they walked towards their respective mechs. Rui and Wei Yu nodded. It is also the start of getting on the mecha to prepare for battle. After the Phoenix successfully applied the buff of undead nature to the Nemesis, the Air Force units led by Rui and Union immediately rushed out. Imposing like a rainbow, he flew towards the disgusting fleet on the opposite side. Boom boom boom. No superfluous nonsense. Rui led the team and started setting off fireworks. With the cooperation of the unmanned fighter group. In the blink of an eye, 4 or 5 corroded battleships exploded and sank to the bottom of the sea. And at the same time, countless naval guns and close-in defense guns roared desperately. In the dense rain of bullets, several unmanned fighter jets that could not dodge in time were also instantly blasted in the air by strafing shots. The battle became intense in an instant. Especially Li Yao and Yun Yan. The 2 women watched the aircraft carriers hiding in the fleet fight. And Yun Yan is very smart. A round of attack goes on. As long as you feel the bleeding is very slow. He knew that this kind of aircraft carrier was what his captain called a king-class aircraft carrier, the kind with thick blood and high defense. At the moment when it is necessary to attack the opponent's air combat unit as soon as possible. Yun Yan decisively gave up attacking this king-class aircraft carrier. Then on the way to find the next ordinary aircraft carrier. Just under this attack rhythm. The fighting continued for more than 3 hours. Qin Tian decisively told Rui and the others to turn back. Because it's time for dinner. As the saying goes, the emperor does not send hungry soldiers. People or iron rice is steel. You can't let your soldiers fight for you hungry. But just in case, to deal with emergencies, Qin Tian let Yu Hai and the others directly bring the food for the 4 of them to eat on the deck. He is not so worried about the opponent's air power attack now. It is because they are afraid that the other party's fleet will cause trouble. Because it was in the battle of more than 3 hours just now. Union wanted to avenge Li Yao. Desperately searched and sank the opponent's 4 ordinary aircraft carriers. Rui and Weiyu worked together to sink a king-class aircraft carrier and an ordinary aircraft carrier. Although Dick resurrected a group of corruptor fighters during the period and wanted to stop it. But in the face of the crazy attack of 4 creation-level mechs and 80 or 90 creation-level unmanned fighter jets. The thousands of corruptor fighters he resurrected didn't play any role at all. It didn't take long before they were all scrapped. It also accidentally exposed the trace of the King-class aircraft carrier. And this Wang-class aircraft carrier happened to be discovered by Rui. The latter greeted Weiyu. In this way, the two teamed up to sink the opponent's King-class aircraft carrier. 94%. Chapter 475. The copy seal can be broken. Dick is crazy about painting cakes. Rui and Weiyu teamed up to sink the opponent's Wang-class aircraft carrier. And Li Yao and Yun Yan also sank the other 2 ordinary aircraft carriers of the other side, not to be outdone. It can be said that it was within these 3 hours. The air power of Dick's fleet is almost equal to being defeated. Even if it is resurrected again, it is estimated that only 300 to 500 corruptor fighters can be resurrected. To Rui and the others, this amount was completely useless. It is precisely because after fully mastering the air supremacy, Qin Tian was able to let Rui, Union and the others come back for dinner with such peace of mind. It's not too late to fight after eating and drinking. And just as the few people were eating amethyst dragon tooth rice and roasted king-level meat to replenish their strength, Qin Tian frowned slightly, because in the flat map in his mind, the huge blue battleship icon representing Dick moved over here again. Qin Tian asked Rui and the others to eat more and eat well. Then he returned to the control room, staring at the end of the sea level ahead. Sure enough, not for a while. He saw the opponent's Shadow Angel medium-sized aerospace aircraft carrier, swaying a dozen disgusting tentacles that had regrown, flying to the center of the battlefield of both sides. Qin Tian, I admit that your air power is really extraordinary, but do you think you can sit back and relax with mastery of the air? Don't be naive, I actually want as many aircraft carriers as I want. Just as the cold voice of 9 nether hells fell, Qin Tian saw it behind and below the opponent's warship. 10 battleships, dozens of cruisers, and hundreds of destroyers covered with stumps, arms, and various organs broke away from the large force and came under the opponent's space carrier. Accompanied by a huge blood-colored beam of light sprinkled from Dick's Shadow Angel. After sweeping the battleships below, everyone was stunned to see that the battleships started to tear each other and fuse together after approaching. The stumps and broken arms flew around. Not long. Hundreds of warships disappeared. Instead, it was a huge aircraft carrier more than 300 meters long. And it also carries 50 or 60 corruptor fighters on it. Such a scene immediately stunned all the viewers in the live broadcast room, including Qin Tian, Li Yao and Yun Yan who were eating. Did I make a mistake? Is there still such a slapstick operation? Isn't this bullying people? The opponent's fleet still has more than 40,000 warships. Although there are not many battleships and cruisers. But according to the previous amount, it would be no problem to combine another 20 or 30 aircraft carriers. And Rui, after eating the last bite of rice in the bowl, he put the bowl down silently, get up and walk towards the control room. Qin Tian, you see, an aircraft carrier is nothing to me. As long as the force field of death I master is strong enough, I can build as many aircraft carriers as you want, so what do you take with me? Qin Tian, I advise you to think again. Join forces with me and take refuge in the Sauron civilization, after the two of us control all the force fields of death together. Then you can use the strongest blow of the force field of death to break the seal that binds the planet's will to the Sea of Death copy. At that time, the force field of death spread to the outside world, and we can leave this instance of Sea of Death, and go to World of Warships to continue absorbing and controlling the force field of death. Let's imagine, when we turn the entire World of Warships into a force field of death, and take it under control. How strong will our strength be? At that time, it will be the arrival of the Zarer civilization. Maybe you rely on your own strength. They can easily destroy the opponent's entire Starfleet army. Quote. Once these words are spoken, the live broadcast room immediately exploded. My dear, the seal of this Sea of Death dungeon can actually be broken. If it is broken, wouldn't our World of Warships be over? I believe that God Chin will definitely not agree to him. It must be very difficult to absorb 100% of the force field of death in that dungeon. Otherwise, Dick would not be so humbly begging God Chin to betray us humans. That's right, as long as Chin Tien doesn't betray us, then Dick, that trash, has nothing to do. Chin Tien, as long as you don't betray mankind, I, Dennis, will be your loyal fan from now on. And me, Hicks too. People in the live broadcast room began to send messages to Prey, asking for flowers, and in the copy of Sea of Death in World of Warships, Dick was still chattering and drawing big cakes to seduce Chin Tien. But I have to say, the opponent's ability to draw cakes is really strong. Say nothing else. Even Chin Tien couldn't help being slightly moved. If this really turns the entire World of Warships into a Sea of Death, then the force field of death covers the whole world and absorbs it. That is tantamount to absorbing the force field of death that can control two worlds, one big and one small. It's just a death dungeon force field. After 100% absorption, you can have more than 300 million blood volume and 400,000 to 500,000 attack power. That would also absorb the larger World of Warships. 0. Hiss. What kind of height will the blood volume and attack power reach? It's almost impossible to even think about it. But the more this is the case, Chin Tien is more likely to agree to the other party. There is no free lunch in the world, and there is no pie in the sky. Since the other party dared to reveal so many secrets about the copy of Sea of Death to him, and keep sending him invitations, this can only represent a fact. That is, the other party is not afraid of him knowing these secrets at all. The opponent has the means to dominate him. Chin Tien's brain didn't twitch. So it is definitely not possible to agree to that guy Dick. Immediately, he unceremoniously scolded the other party with a loudspeaker, stupid. Dick was so angry that he almost ran away. Captain. And at this moment, Rui came to the control room of the battleship. Oh, it's Rui, what's the matter? What's the matter? Chin Tien greeted the other party into the control room and asked. It's okay, I just want you, Captain, to launch a must-hit skill at the newly fused aircraft carrier. I want to verify my guess. Rui saluted Chin Tien and said respectfully. No problem, I just don't like that guy for a long time. Nodded. Chin Tien is not long-winded either. Aim directly at the newly fused aircraft carrier and activate the must-hit triple skill for a long time. 94%. Chapter 476 Disguise, Dick who has lost the air supremacy. Boom boom boom. The huge artillery shells were all bombarded on the ship of the new aircraft carrier with incomparable precision. Instantly, a large amount of scarlet damage floated up from the top of the aircraft carrier one after another. As the blood bar is directly emptied, the new aircraft carrier that had just been fused and hadn't even experienced a battle exploded, rumbling. Under the astonished eyes of countless people in Dick in the live broadcast room, it slowly sank to the bottom of the sea. Water provokes Fok. Chin Tien, what do you mean? I kindly show you the way, but you challenge my bottom line again and again. I really don't dare to kill you. Dick, who had recovered, let out an angry roar towards Chin Tien. Regarding this, Chin Tien just snorted with disdain. He didn't pay attention to the other party, but together with Su Jian, he looked at 447 and looked at Rui beside him. It's exactly what I thought it would be, Rui said with a wise light in his eyes. What's the meaning? Chin Tien asked curiously. Captain, I discovered in the battle before that the enemy's ordinary aircraft carrier has very little HP, but there are a lot of corruptor fighters on it, and those King-class battleships have thick blood and high defense, but the fighters on them are even more powerful. Less than half of ordinary aircraft carriers. I was still very puzzled. But after watching the whole process of the fusion of the ordinary aircraft carrier just now, I finally understand the reason. Quote. Rui said with a confident look on his face. What is it? Su Jian asked in cooperation. It should be the number when fusing battleships. Rui said. Just an ordinary aircraft carrier. I think we need to add 10 battleships, dozens of cruisers and hundreds of destroyers to it. And the aircraft carriers fused from these warships have also exposed the shortcoming of insufficient blood volume in Captain Yu's must-hit talent, but there are nearly 60 corruptor fighters on them. The King-class aircraft carrier that Wei Yu and I sank before had at least 1 million HP, but there were only a few dozen corruptor fighters on it. So I guess, ordinary aircraft carriers use fewer battleships, so their blood volume is thin, but with a few more battleships, they can have dozens or even hundreds of corruptor fighters. However, for a King-class aircraft carrier with thick blood and high defense, it may take at least several times this number of battleships to synthesize one, and adding a few more battleships may not produce a few more corruptor fighter jets. Quote. Hear Rui's explanation. Qin Tian said with a heartbeat. Rui, what you mean is that even if the opponent has 40,000 to 50,000 warships, it is not easy to combine a dozen aircraft carriers or a few King-class aircraft carriers thing, is it? Yes, Captain, that's what I mean. Seeing that Qin Tian understood what he wanted to express, Rui said with a smile on his face. Su Jian also heard what Roizu wanted to express. He said to Qin Tian, Captain, the other party deliberately showed such a trick in front of us. Obviously the other party should also be aware of the consequences of losing the air supremacy, so they used such a trick to deter us. Okay, let the captain agree to his conditions and join the Sauron civilization. Qin Tian nodded and said with a smile. That's right, this guy dared to reveal the various secrets of the force field of death so generously, there must be something tricky about it. The biggest possibility among them is the power of the same source. The party who controls a greater percentage of the power of death should have the ability to absolutely suppress the party who controls a lesser percentage. That's why he dared to show that it was all for my own good, and even gave me the benefits that should belong to him alone, as if he had a heart-to-heart magnanimity. That's very possible indeed. Su Jian nodded in agreement with Qin Tian's guess. These strange abilities are derived from the evolution of the death force field little by little after it was finally fully formed. At that time, Su Jian was already dead. So for these various abilities, he also doesn't have an exact answer. Forget it, don't think about it so much. Our top priority now is to quickly enter the treasure house and get the equipment and supplies we need. Qin Tian shook his head, put aside those irrelevant things and continued. Although it is confirmed that the opponent has no ability to check and balance our air power, we still can't take it too lightly. There are so many corroded battleships in Death Dungeon, and now these are just warships that the opponent can barely summon from the nearby area within a few days. So Rui, your next task is to clean up the largest number of destroyers in the opponent's fleet as much as possible. How can you do it? Don't worry, Captain. Borrowing Yun Yan's words, without the hindrance of air power, we should be able to clear out more than half of the opponent's warships before sunset tomorrow. Rui said confidently. Very well, then I will leave it to you, let's go. Qin Tian nodded in satisfaction. After watching Rui walk out of the control room, he looked at Xin Qi again, and said, Shao Qi, tell Phoenix to ask Yao Lang to cast Nature of Immortality for us. Xin Qi nodded and did so. Pick up the handset and start calling. When the red buff light starts to light up, Rui, Union, Li Yao and Wei Yu drove the 4 mechas soaring into the sky. Behind them followed unmanned fighter jets that took off one after another. Far away, seeing the group of 4 mechs and unmanned fighter jets soaring up from Qin Tian's goddess of Nemesis. After Dick cursed fragrantly, immediately, he controlled his battleship and ran away. 0.1. At the same time, he had a thought. The terrifying force field of death immediately accepted his order, and sent it to all the corroded battleships present. Boom boom boom. Instantly, the cannon roared. Missiles flew across the sky. The fierce battle started in an instant. Even the goddess of Nemesis moved a little closer to the battlefield. Provide long-range fire support to your own Air Force units in the back. Plasma cannonballs with electric arcs burst out from time to time. About every 3 or 4 rounds are fired. The target can be martyred. Period. The 2 fleets separated by the opponent did intercept Qin Tian's Qin Shui fleet halfway. But it didn't do much at all. 94%. Chapter 477. The plan begins. Dick panics. Under the scan of Qin Tian plane map, The opponent's fleet can't hide its whereabouts at all. So they were easily avoided by Qin Tian leading the team ahead of time. The battle between the two sides continued like this for 2 full days and 1 night. When the time came to more than 5 o'clock in the evening of the next day, it was exactly as Yun Yan said. The more than 40,000 battleships of Dick's fleet were directly annihilated by them. Now the size of the entire fleet has been reduced by more than half compared to yesterday. Qin Tian visually estimated that there were only 17,800 warships left. Aircraft carriers except Dick's aerospace carrier. All others were sunk, although during the period, thousands of corroded warships joined the fleet from the surrounding voyages. But this is a drop in the bucket for Dick, who has lost his air supremacy. It can't solve his urgent needs at all. And Goddess of Nemesis boarded. Looking at Rui, who flew back again to replenish the undead nature buff. Feeling that the time is ripe, Qin Tian said to him, Rui, get ready, I'm going to make a foray into the treasure house. You can ask Yun Yan and the others to come back one after another to replenish their status, and by the way, also replenish the unmanned fighter jets. After we go in, if you haven't come out within an hour, then you should temporarily stop fighting, and take protecting the Phoenix as the first task. Quote. Yes, Captain, here the plans are about to unfold. After replenishing the status of the mecha, Rui soared into the sky and returned to the battlefield. Immediately afterwards, Yun Yan's 3 mechas and those unmanned fighter jets also flew back quickly one after another to replenish the buff. After everything is ready, Qin Tian greeted Yao Lang and the others with a loudspeaker. Immediately the Nemesis soared into the sky. Directly fly quickly towards the oblique side of the battlefield at a straight distance. See this scene. Dick suddenly thumped in his heart. For Qin Tian's plan, with the information magnetic field deduction and prediction function, he naturally knows a thing or two. But knowing is knowing. Wanting to stop it is more than enough but not enough. Having lost his air supremacy, he has no effective checks and balances at all in the face of the attacks of 4 Genesis-level mechas and nearly 100 Genesis-level UCAVs. Now seeing Qin Tian's warship that made him envious and fearful plan to cross the side of the battlefield, he subconsciously issued an order to intercept the attack to the battleship below. Instantly, the naval guns and missiles launched by countless corroded warships immediately bombarded Qin Tian's Nemesis. The front part of the naval guns and missiles was blocked by a translucent shield that suddenly appeared. It is Li Yao's protective shield characteristics. It's just that the naval gun attack and missile attack of nearly 20,000 battleships cannot be resisted by a small shield with 10% HP. After the injury reached its peak, the translucent shield disappeared. Countless missiles and artillery shells collectively bombarded Qin Tian's Goddess of Nemesis. Dazzling flames lit up on the ship of the Nemesis one after another. The thick gunpowder smoke soon engulfed the entire battleship. But everything is in vain. Goddess of Nemesis flew out of the gunpowder smoke within a few breaths. Continue to drive forward with a nearly intact attitude. Certainly, the missing health bar on the legendary battleship title above his head still shows that the attack just now was obviously effective. After all, the number of battleships is there. The attack of tens of thousands of naval guns and tens of thousands of ship-to-air missiles is still quite powerful. It's just that Dick hasn't had time to be happy. He saw a green repair icon suddenly appearing above Qin Tian's warship. The tens of thousands of blood left blank on the blood bar. It was quickly refilled. Fact. See this scene. Dick angrily waved the tail behind him with a hoo-hoo. I can't wait to poke my tail into Qin Tian's head. Chase. Seeing Qin Tian's warship fly past them silkily and smoothly, he immediately gave an order to all the corroded battleships around him with a thought. Immediately after, the shadow angel that controlled him followed closely behind. And the corroded warships below him, after receiving his order, they can only deal with the indiscriminate bombing from Rui and others in the sky. Turn around with difficulty, and then speed up and chase Qin Tian's battleship desperately. And this gave Rui and the others very good offensive conditions. When these corroded warships rearranged their formation and desperately pursued Qin Tian, the fleet that originally had more than 18,000 corroded warships only had about 15,000 left. Although Dick is distressed, don't want it. But the most important thing now is to stop Qin Tian, so that he can't really run into the treasury of the Chengxing Empire. Although after an era of time erosion, there should be no items left. But what if, after finally obtaining such a powerful force, he didn't want to put himself in a desperate situation because of his own carelessness? But imagination is beautiful, but the reality is often very skinny. Because Dick quickly found out in despair. No matter how hard he tried to catch up. 093. His battleship just couldn't catch up with Qin Tian in front. Not to mention that Qin Tian's battleship was much larger than his own, but it was surprisingly fast. You must know that under the strengthening of the force field of death, his medium-sized space carrier, Shadow Angel, has a speed of 33 knots. But now it is a whole lot worse than the other party. Even when he used 3 orange quality neutral particle cannons and 2 orange quality black death ray cannons, he didn't cause much damage to the opponent. This made him a little suspicious. Why does he feel that the other party is more like a leader-level boss in World of Warships than he is? This is really shocking. What made Dick even more desperate was yet to come. That was when Qin Tian came to the waters of the King-class aircraft carrier that Rui and the others killed. A magnificent and bright mythical level red treasure chest is quietly floating in the distance. This changed the face of Dick, who was chasing after him. Controlling several naval guns, they crazily poured particle beams and missile ammunition towards the path that Qin Tian and the treasure chest must pass through. Seeing that Qin Tian's warship didn't have the slightest intention to turn around, it continued to fly straight ahead. Dick thought that Qin Tian was intimidated by his saturated cannon fire. So I gave up that mythical treasure chest. This caused a smile to appear on his mutated and deformed face. 95%. Chapter 478. Back on the same road, the treasure chest is in hand. Forced Qin Tian gave up on picking up the treasure chest. This made Dick feel very proud. I think I finally got it back. But when Qin Tian's warship flew across from the treasure chest not far away, seeing that magnificent mythical treasure chest flew directly to the deck of Qin Tian's battleship as if he had been cursed. Fact. See this scene. Dick, who was still smiling just now, turned livid in an instant. Why is there a treasure chest pickup on his battleship? Dick's shattered life of doubt. What the hell is this Qin Tian, the son of the will of the planet? How can all good things fall on the other party's head? He heard about it by accident when he was in the Moore family. According to statistics, nearly 3 million God-chosen have entered World of Warships in the entire Blue Star. But if you can meet God's chosen in it and have a treasure chest picker, there may not be 10 God's chosen out of a million. Not even those big capitalists. The Lot family also paid a lot of money to buy it. But no one is willing to sell. This shows how rare this item is. And now he has. But the master is the enemy he is now chasing after. It's amazing how he can balance his mind. And Qin Tian's side. After seeing the mythical treasure chest on the deck, the corner of his mouth raised slightly. He said to Chu Hongbao, "Hongbao, let's go to the sea area where the battle started. I remember there are 2 treasure chests there." "Yes, Captain." Hear Qin Tian's words. Chu Hongbao's eyes also lit up. Nodding his head, after checking the coordinates, he slightly adjusted the sailing angle and continued to sail forward. And Qin Tian came to the deck. Look at the magnificent red treasure chest. Just toss it open. Congratulations to the captain for obtaining the blueprint of the epic star decoy bomb ×1. Congratulations to the captain for obtaining the blueprint of the mythical unmanned fighter jet ×10. Congratulations to the captain for obtaining the epic 203mm coastal artillery blueprint ×1. Congratulations to the captain for obtaining 10,000 units of fine wood. Congratulations to the captain for obtaining 10,000 units of fine flax. Congratulations to the captain for obtaining 10,000 units of fine metal sheets. Congratulations to the captain for obtaining 10,000 units of excellent plastics. There are bait bombs. After seeing what was opened from the mythical treasure chest this time, while Qin Tian was surprised, he was also somewhat delighted. It's a good thing. At that time, install it on Union's mecha. Can save lives at critical moments. Absolutely worth the money. The battleship continued sailing. After about 2 or 3 hours, Qin Tian came to the sea area where the 2 sides fought for the first time. Sure enough, in front of them, they saw the Genesis-level treasure chest exuding colorful rays of light and the mythical-level treasure chest of red rays of light that Rui and the others played out at the beginning. Hongbao, drive the battleship over. Qin Tian said to Chu Hongbao with a smile on the corner of his mouth. After going around and going around, didn't these 2 treasure chests fall into his pocket king in the end? I really don't know what Dick plotted. Even if the treasure chest is placed in front of his eyes, he can't pick it up. Qin Tian snorted coldly in his heart and said to himself. At first he was for these 2 treasure chests. In this sea area, they have been entangled with the opponent's fleet for most of the day. But at that time, the number of warships in the opposing fleet was really too much. The fleet of more than 40,000 warships stretches endlessly. Squeeze these 2 treasure chests in the middle of the fleet and don't give him any chance at all. In the end, Qin Tian was forced to do nothing. So I had no choice but to give up these 2 precious treasure chests, choose to retreat. But now this result. It must have been something Dick hadn't thought of. And it is true. When he saw 2 treasure chests, one red and one colorful, appeared in front of the Qin Tian battleship. Only then did he discover that the route Qin Tian chose passed through the sea area where they first confronted each other. This discovery almost killed him. It was useless to feel that Qin Tian was forced to give up these 2 treasure chests and choose to retreat because of his strict defense at that time. It took a long time. These 2 treasure chests finally fell into the hands of each other. Although my heart is angry to death. But under the action of the treasure chest picker, he couldn't do anything at all. He could only be furious, and watch the 2 treasure chests one after the other, obediently and automatically flew to the deck of Qin Tian's battleship. Damn it. Why did the Yanlong Empire produce such a number 1 person? Dick gritted his teeth angrily. Naturally, Qin Tian didn't care how angry and unwilling Dick was behind him at the moment. He left the control room and came to the deck. He opened the mythical treasure chest very casually. Congratulations to the captain for obtaining the blueprint of the mythical universal military cabin ×1. Congratulations to the captain for obtaining the mythical detection radar blueprint ×1. Congratulations to the captain for obtaining the blueprint of the mythical fully automatic coastal anti-aircraft gun ×10. Congratulations to the captain for obtaining 10,000 units of fine wood. Congratulations to the captain for obtaining 10,000 units of fine flax. Congratulations to the captain for obtaining 10,000 units of fine metal sheets. Congratulations to the captain for obtaining 10,000 units of excellent plastics. When I heard that there was actually a mythical radar blueprint in the broadcast, Qin Tian immediately nodded in satisfaction. At that time, turn this mythical radar blueprint, advanced, into a creation level. The detection range of the radar will definitely be greatly increased. It has to be said that this Sea of Death dungeon is indeed a good place to replenish the armament of the battleship. The place where the battle with Dick's fleet was before. Rui and the others didn't know how many treasure boxes they had opened. It's just that those treasure chests have been constantly covered and guarded by Dick's corroded warships. And Qin Tian was also unable to get close to the main battle, Liao Nuo Jiao, on the field. So it has never been picked up in the past. But now Dick led all the corroded warships to follow him. That sea area naturally became a safe area. He just sent Elisa a message. Let the opponent lead several other warships to salvage all the treasure chests. It must have been salvaged by now. At that time, a copy of Sea of Death was released and returned to his god-level treasure island. Open those treasure chests again. It is estimated that a fleet of 2,000 to 3,000 warships can be armed immediately. Think here. Qin Tian glanced at the back. It can be seen that Dick's medium-sized aerospace carrier has been pulled away from more than 10 kilometers to more than 20 kilometers. As for the corroded battleship fleet under its command, except for the 110 ships at the beginning, some small black spots could barely be seen. There was no shadow of what was behind. 95%. Chapter 479 Genesis Star Commander Laser Launcher. You can guess without thinking about it. It is estimated that the tens of thousands of corroded warships are all held up by Rui and the others halfway at this moment, and they are killing frantically. Qin Tian glanced at Dick's Shadow Angel. After a faint sneer, he then took his gaze back. Then he stepped in front of the creation-level treasure chest. Take a deep breath, grab the lid of the box, and with a slight lift, the lid of the treasure box was lifted off. Congratulations to the captain for obtaining the blueprint of the Genesis level 1000 times gravity training room ×1. Congratulations to the captain for obtaining the Genesis class Star Commander laser launcher ×4. Congratulations to the captain for obtaining the blueprint of the Genesis class fighter ×1. Congratulations to the captain for obtaining 10,000 units of fine wood. Congratulations to the captain for obtaining 10,000 units of fine flax. Congratulations to the captain for obtaining 10,000 units of fine metal sheets. Congratulations to the captain for obtaining 10,000 units of excellent plastics. Congratulations to the captain for obtaining 10,000 barrels of crude oil. Hiss. After hearing the continuous broadcast of the will of the planet, Qin Tian's eyes couldn't help showing a dazzling light. A world-class 1,000-fold gravity training room. Genesis class Star Commander laser launcher. Just by hearing the names of these two items, you can tell that they are definitely not ordinary. Especially the latter, Genesis-class Star Commander Laser Launcher 300 devices. This is what he desires most right now. After he strengthened and installed the Genesis-class Thunder Laser Air Defense Launcher, he has looked forward to this kind of laser cannon that can shoot flat on the ship more than once. The attack power of the strengthened Genesis-class Thunder Laser Air Defense Launcher is so f-king high. Fires 36 rounds a minute. Each shot can deal a minimum of 36,000 HP damage. This time, those corruptor fighters often fell on this Genesis-class Thunder Laser anti-aircraft launcher. If his nemesis comes with a few more laser naval guns, then his battleship can be said to be super perfect. And now all wishes come true. Qin Tian couldn't sit still. Immediately, he turned his attention to the 4 laser launchers that appeared on the deck, which were about the size of ordinary naval guns. These 4 laser emitters should also be able to be strengthened, right? Think here. He used the divine detective technique to check the 4 laser emitters. Item: Creation Class Star Commander Laser Launcher. Quality: colorful. 15,000. Effective range: 20,000 kilometers. Durability: 20,000. Effective rate of fire: 12 rounds per minute. Requirement: for every 10,000 units of power consumed, it can be launched for 1 minute. Introduction: a laser cannon improved by the Chengxing Empire Military Research Center, which has a range far beyond ordinary laser cannons. Normal enhancement: 5,000 low-quality crystal organ, 4,000 low-quality metal sheet, 30,000 low-quality nail. Strengthening can increase 3,000 attack. Quality enhancement: 8,000 ordinary crystal organ, 5,000 ordinary metal sheet, 40,000 ordinary nail. Strengthening can increase attack power by 10,000. Advanced enhancement: 15,000 high-quality crystal ore, 70,000 high-quality metal sheet, 60,000 high-quality nail. Strengthening can increase 32,000 hits. 20 kilometers range, 12 rounds per minute. The attack power before strengthening is 15,000, and the attack power after strengthening is 47,000. Qin Tian discovered that this Creation-class Star Commander Laser Launcher is actually similar to the Creation-class Thunder Laser Air Defense Launcher. But the former has a much higher range and attack power. I have to say this is really powerful. Even if it has not been strengthened, the attack power is far better than the mythical Class Y-15 anti-ship missile Genesis Class Mk73-203mm naval gun, and the 2 mythical Class 52 122mm rocket launchers installed now. Together they are much stronger. After Qin Tian asked the crew below to come up and move all the crude oil barrels covering the deck to the cabin below, CBDJ. He then moved the 4 Genesis-level Star Commander laser launchers to the Genesis-level Mk73-203mm naval gun, 2 mythical-level 52 122mm rocket launchers, and the mythological-level Class Y-15 anti-ship missile was replaced with the installation of 4 Genesis-class Star Commander laser launchers. With a thought, Qin Tian directly opened the attribute panel of Nemesis. He focused his attention on the attack column. I saw that the original value of attack, 1496181555890, has changed to the value of attack, 1841521904424. This damage directly increased by 30,000 to 40,000. If this enters the treasure house, after really getting enough crystal ore from it, a wave of enhancements will be carried out on the 4 Genesis-level Star Commander laser launchers. Then the attack power can take off directly. Thinking so flatteringly, Qin Tian subconsciously looked at Dick's medium-sized aerospace carrier behind him. If it weren't for the distance, it would be more than 20 kilometers. He wanted to use the opponent's battleship to try a wave of attack first. Chase from the beginning. Dick's Shadow Angel has been attacking him relentlessly. Although the damage caused is limited. And he also has a super nanny like Su Jian to restore blood. But it's annoying to be unable to hold back the endless firing of the opponent's naval guns. Never mind. The distance is more than 20 kilometers. The laser cannon will definitely not be able to hit the opponent. Qin Tian shook his head and put this thought behind him. Then he stepped forward to the armaments of the battleships he had replaced. With a thought, I found Elise's contact information from the contacts. He has always been a little worried about the lack of military strength of the Phoenix. Just in time for this change, He can trade this Genesis class Mk-73-203mm naval gun, 2 mythical class 52 122mm rocket launchers, and that mythical class Y-15 anti-ship missile to Elisa. Let the other party install it on the Phoenix. With these warships armed, Phoenix's combat power can be raised several big steps immediately. In fact, as an aircraft carrier, he should arrange some drones for Phoenix. It's just that the number of unmanned fighter jets is still too small. He was given priority to supply to the goddess of Nemesis. So, we can only wait and see. 95%. Chapter 480. Treasure House of the Chengxing Empire. Put these aside for a moment. Qin Tian sent a message to Elisa. Elisa, I'll trade you a few pieces of battleship equipment, and you install these pieces of battleship equipment on the Phoenix. Send message. He immediately initiated a transaction application to the other party, and at the same time put all the weapons of several warships on board. Okay, boss, I am still leading several other warships to salvage treasure chests in the sea. There are too many, I have never seen so many treasure chests. Elisa finished replying to Qin Tian's message, and then agreed to this transaction. This dungeon of the Sea of Death was originally a place rich in battleship equipment, not to mention that this time we also stabbed other people's lairs and killed so many corroded battleships. It is not surprising that there are so many treasure chests. Elisa, after you salvage the treasure chest, don't run around, just take it with you in that sea area. If I haven't come out of the treasure house after an hour, Rui and the others will return to protect you. Qin Tian told Elisa. Understood, boss, I will notify others. Elisa was very sensible and sent Qin Tian a message back. Well, if you encounter any urgent matters, please notify me in time. Finish sending this message. Qin Tian closed the chat interface. Captain, I already sense that we are approaching, about 30 or 40 nautical miles away. At this time, Su Jian came to Qin Tian and told the news that he was about to arrive at the treasure house. Oh, is it almost here at last? Hearing Su Jian's words, Qin Tian couldn't help but feel a little anticipation in his heart. After sailing for about 30 nautical miles, standing beside Qin Tian, Su Jian suddenly changed his expression and said, "Here we are, Captain." As his voice fell, I saw it in the void hundreds of meters ahead. Accompanied by a burst of lightning and thunder, the color of the storm changed, and soon a black vortex portal slowly emerged. Qin Tian did not return to the control room. He just stretched out his hand and pointed at the vortex portal. Seeing this, Zula, who had been watching Qin Tian's movements in the control room, immediately said to Chu Hongbao, who was in charge of the helm, "Hongbao, the captain pointed to the vortex portal, and he should be letting us in." Chu Hongbao nodded when he heard the words, and replied, "Understood." Finished. He turned the rudder lightly. The battleship flew straight towards the vortex portal. And behind the goddess of Nemesis, Dick, who hid himself in the control room, saw the dark vortex portal that appeared abruptly in the void. An angry tail whipped on the floor full of flesh and blood. In an instant, a huge hole was pulled out of the flesh and blood tissue all over the floor, and a painful wailing sounded faintly from inside. But Dick didn't care about it. He just fixed his eyes on Qin Tian's goddess of Nemesis flying into the vortex portal. And the vortex portal also slowly disappeared as the Qin Tian battleship completely entered. After seeing this scene, Dick cursed angrily. Then there was a thought. Use the power of the death force field to start sending messages to all the corroded warships around and behind. Let them come here to join themselves. He wants to lay a net at this exit. When the time comes, wait for Qin Tian's battleship to come out. He will definitely give the other party a big surprise. Let Qin Tian can't eat and walk around, regardless of how Dick tosses outside. At this moment, Qin Tian entered the treasury of the Chengxing Empire. However, he was shocked by the generosity of the Chengxing Empire. Stand on the deck and look around. It can be seen that this is a super big palace covering an area of about 100,000 square meters. Surrounded by palaces of various sizes. But even the smallest palace, its height is also more than 20 meters high. As for those huge palaces, the height of 100 meters does not seem abrupt here. Above this space, hundreds of crystal stones the size of a millstone are inlaid in the void. Just like the night pearl of the earth and stars. It exudes a gentle white light, illuminating this place like daytime. And the middle area where the goddess of Nemesis is located is obviously an area dedicated to parking warships or mechs. Is this the treasury of the Chengxing Empire? It's really awesome, but Mr. Su, why is this treasury made like a palace? What are we going to do next? Asking for flowers. Seeing this scene, Qin Tian looked at Su Jian in a daze and asked. He originally thought that the treasure house of the Chengxing Empire was an incomparably huge space. The goods inside are stacked in 2 rows. Just go in and pick whatever you want. Who knew it was such a scene? Ha ha ha, Captain, don't worry. Looking at Qin Tian's tangled look, Su Jian said with a smile, leave it to the old man. Captain, let's go to the southern area first. Hearing Su Jian's words, Qin Tian nodded and said, yes. Then he asked curiously, Old Su, is there anything in this treasure house that cannot be distinguished? 0. Yes, Captain. Facing Qin Tian's question, Su Jian smiled and explained to him, Captain, the warehouse storage of the Chengxing Empire is classified according to the 4 regions of East, West, North and South. The East area stores the weapons and equipment of warships and mechs, which is where we will go later. Stored in the West are the Empire's strange spoils of war, many of which even the scientific research institutes can't understand, and they have been piled up here over time, slowly covered in dust. And the South is where the crystal ore is stored. Whether the Empire mines itself, or pays tribute to the colonial planets under its command. All the crystal ores of the Chengxing Empire will be placed here, sent out when needed, and stored here if not needed, at least not taking up space. As for the North, it is the place where all kinds of materials and food of the Empire are stored, which can be said to be the most important. Quote. Hearing Su Jian's introduction, Qin Tian also had a general understanding of the treasure house of the Chengxing Empire in his heart. Have to say, the planning of the Chengxing Empire is quite careful. With the continuous flight of the battleship. Soon, they came to the rows of antique buildings on the south side about 50 or 60 meters high. I saw Su Jian coming to the largest palace among them. With a brow light and a mark. Soon, a white light shone from the plaque of the palace, shining on Su Jian's forehead impartially for a long time. Su Jian's forehead impartially for a long time. Su Jian's